All right, thank you so much. Welcome. Whoa, 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 Ms. Peterson, we won't do that. We won't do that. We won't tolerate it. All right. And I'm the mayor. We're not going to tolerate that. All right. Welcome everyone to City Hall. And welcome to City Hall. If you are in line, you will be allowed to sign up, so don't worry about rushing there to sign up to speak tonight. I'm going to call this meeting to order, 7 o'clock, and I will entertain a moment of silence. Please embrace it. Thank you. This moment, I'll pass it over to Councilmember Freeman for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. It's our practice to stand and salute the flag and say the pledge together if you'd like to join us or if you're able. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Williams,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton,
I'm here.
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Caballero,
Here.
Councilmember Cook,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Present.
Councilmember Rist.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, I am going to read our proclamation here. I'll read the first one. We have one other tonight that will be recognizing some amazing folks. Proclamation. Whereas Black-owned businesses are a vital part of Durham's economic growth, fostering job creation, innovation, and wealth building opportunities within.
Because you don't know who people are, but you have to know who you are. You are the contrast. You don't conform. You stand.
I'll talk about the new technology in just a moment. We're going to figure it out. I'll start over. We don't want that a part of the proclamation. Whereas welcome back. One more time. Your proclamation. Whereas Black-owned businesses are a vital part of Durham's economic growth, fostering job creation, innovation, and wealth building opportunities within our community. And whereas Durham has a rich history of Black entrepreneurship, exemplified by Black Wall Street, which laid the foundation for strong, self-sustaining businesses and continues to inspire future generations. And whereas Give It to the People Black Biz Month is dedicated to promoting economic empowerment by encouraging education awareness and international spending with Black-owned business throughout August. And whereas this month-long initiative will provide valuable business education, networking, and financial literacy resources, ensuring that Black entrepreneurs have the tools needed to sustain and grow their enterprises. And whereas celebrating Black-owned businesses enhances Durham's cultural vibrancy and strengthens our local economy, fostering equitable opportunities for all residents. Now, therefore, I, Leonardo Williams, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim August 2025 as Give It to the People Black Biz Month. Happy Black August. In the City of Durham, and encourage all residents to support, engage, and celebrate Black entrepreneurship throughout the month, and hopefully throughout the year. All right. Witness my hand in the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this 4th day of August, 2025.
Thank you so much. My name is Chisa Penix Brown. This is my husband, Montrell Brown, and this is Tammy Brown. She's a part of our business with Give It to the People. So on behalf of Give It to the People and our entire community of entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders, we want to thank the City of Durham for this incredible honor and for recognizing that Black Business Month is more than a celebration, it's a movement. This proclamation is a reminder that when we invest in Black businesses, we invest in the culture, creativity, and capacity of our entire city. Through our statewide Give It, Get It business membership, we're building a pipeline of professionals, resources, and opportunities connecting entrepreneurs to the aligned people targeting training and strategic events that they need to grow smarter and faster. This August, we're not just asking you to shop Black, we're asking you to build.
We want you to network with us, partner with us, circulate your dollars and your influence where they matter most.
Thank you for standing with us as we continue to build wealth, legacy, community, and give it to the people.
Thank you all.
My thanks to His Honor the Mayor and to my honorable colleagues for allowing me to read this proclamation for National Emergency Management Awareness Month. Good evening to everyone, to all of you, our neighbors in chamber with us, and all of you watching on whatever platform you may be watching this evening. I'd like to invite Elizabeth Schroeder, who is our Chief Emergency Manager for Durham County, to come stand with me. Bring your team. Proclamation. Whereas emergencies and disasters can occur unexpectedly, posing significant threats to life, property, and the environment. And whereas the efforts of our nation's emergency managers have helped millions of community members across the United States recover, rebuild, and become more resilient in the face of adversity. And whereas emergency managers across the United States and U.S. territories are charged with establishing and maintaining the capabilities necessary to effectively direct, coordinate, and support emergency and disaster response and recovery efforts. And whereas the mission areas of prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery align with the core capabilities identified in the National Preparedness Goal, the emergency managers serve the nation by responding to countless emergencies and disasters each year, demonstrating commitment, compassion, and professionalism in protecting the public. And whereas the efforts of our nation's emergency managers have helped millions of community members across the United States recover, rebuild, and become more resilient in the face of adversity. Now, therefore, I, Leonardo Williams, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim August 2025 as National Emergency Management Awareness Month in the City of Durham, and urge all citizens to express appreciation for the vital work performed by emergency management professionals across our country. Witness my hand in a corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this the 4th day of August 2025, Leonardo Williams, Mayor. This is for you. Please have some words.
Good evening. My name is Mark Lockhart. I'm the Director of Durham County Office of Emergency Services and have the honor of serving with these fine folks you see standing behind me. We greatly appreciate your recognition of National Emergency Management Awareness Month, and whether it's preparing for, planning, responding to, mitigating, or recovering from a major disaster, these are the folks who are doing this job day in and day out for the city and the county. In my 40-plus years in emergency services, I can tell you these are some of the finest professionals that I have ever had the honor of serving with and for, and they do this job incredibly well. From handling hazardous materials calls with our public safety partners at the fire department, the police department, to managing a response to post-tropical Chantal a few weeks ago, or as recently as a week ago Sunday, handling an active assailant drill at not just one college campus, but 2 college campuses simultaneously. These folks plan and prepare for every conceivable emergency there is, and it's an honor to serve with them. We thank you again for this recognition. Thank you.
Testing. All right. Thank you all so much. All right. I will now start to my left with announcements by council. Councilmember Cook, good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just am going to go over a few things very briefly since I had to have an excused absence for the work session today. So I just want to welcome back my colleagues from our summer recess. I did take a little bit of a break for my honeymoon, but other than that, was doing quite a bit of work in the community during that time as well. So just wanted to say a couple of things that I have done since the last meeting. One was that I had the opportunity to read the proclamation at the Solid Waste Appreciation Day. So I got to hang out and have a really delicious lunch with our solid waste workers who took time out of their very long shifts to have a day where they got a little bit of extra celebration, and just want to reemphasize how great our city workers are, and particularly the folks that are doing solid waste. It was so hot that day, and just remembering that folks are out there collecting our waste for us in all weather, and doing a really great job of it. So respectful, so kind. So had a great time at that event. Also wanted to just give a shout out to all of the neighborhoods that put on Juneteenth events. Had a really great time in Hayti, doing wellness work at the West End, at Bragtown. That was, all 3 of those were really fun, and I didn't even get to go to everything that I wanted to. Also got to go to a very quick part of Refugee Day that was really meaningful in Central Park. And then finally on the 4th of July, got to celebrate the Durham Bulls' great win with some of my colleagues, the Watts Hillendale Parade, and the Eno River Festival. And just wanted to say one quick word on that, which is that I think that we have been seeing these storms, these once in a lifetime or once every 100-year storms happening consistently year after year, season after season, and it's really hard to watch and to witness. And I think that it is also something that should be giving us a great deal of warning that we don't have the ability to control the climate, right? These are federal and often international policies that are impacting global temperature rise. But what we do have is the power to ensure that our communities are well equipped, and we just had a conversation about disaster preparedness, that our communities are well equipped to deal with that fallouts, and also that we are doing everything we can to mitigate and ensure that we are sustainable in this community. And so a big reminder there, and I want to say a special thanks to the Parks and Rec team who've been doing a lot of work and cleanup after the flooding, and also send my well wishes out to folks who were impacted by those 2 floods. Those are all my announcements. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to see everyone in the room. Our last meeting was in June, so we've been in recess since then. Appreciate the turnout, appreciate all of the work that our city workers have been doing throughout the month of July, and since our last meeting, holding things down, picking up the trash, doing the day-to-day work that keeps our city running. It is our workers that keep our city running. We all know that we face many challenges in this country right now. We are we are subjected to many of those challenges here at the local level. We see them directly. Duke University, with their hiring freeze and layoffs, cuts in science, cuts in education. We're seeing that, we're feeling that here in Durham and across the region. But one thing we need to keep doing is working through our local government, helping our communities survive and thrive, being creative, but also sometimes just holding the line on what we can actually control here at the local level. Making parks and trails and recreation programs accessible to everyone, fostering a diverse economy, especially in this time with many uncertainties in the economy, tackling root causes of violence. We can't afford to look at the state of things and throw up our hands in despair. We need to keep working. We need to do the very best that we can. We're in a municipal election year, so there's a lot of eyes on the local government. That also means we're in the midst of campaign season, and I know that my colleagues, including the ones that are up for re-election, I know that we have this platform, but I know that we're going to be able to continue working together, whatever happens out there, that we're going to continue working together productively here up on this dais. So over the next year, I'm excited about working with all of my colleagues up here. We have a lot of opportunities, whether it's keeping buses fare-free or continuing to invest in our city workers. We're adopting those new street design standards that we've been talking about to make our cities safer. We've got the Unified Development Ordinance rewrite happening. We can fight to end car-centric sprawl and reorient our development rules and regulations to start working better for the environment and for people. So I know that we have a lot of battles ahead of us, but I also know that there's a lot of common ground that we can collaborate on. And finally, I missed a little bit of what happened at the beginning, but I just want to reiterate the point that my colleague, Councilmember Caballero, and I have a lot of policy disagreements, but she has every right to be up on this dais. She won the votes to be here, and I'm glad to be sitting next to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good to see y'all. I just want to say thank you to my colleagues who lifted up city staff. I also want to lift up Durham Parks and Rec yesterday for their incredible Durham Fiesta Latina. We got incredible weather for August. It was very fun and full of dancing and joy. So just want to shout out staff for dedicating their, sorry, your shouting disrupted my train of thought. But just want to shout out DPR staff for doing that. Look forward to the meeting tonight. Hope everyone got some rest. It'll be a busy fall, and thanks.
Thank you and good evening. I want to appreciate Councilmember Caballero and Councilmember Baker, as well as Councilmember Cook's comments, and also just add that it's, because we missed the meetings in July, I want to make sure I do say Happy Disability Awareness Month, and then also Happy Black August. I'm excited about what's to come this year and focusing on the needs of our community, and trying to think of what else. I think we talked about a lot of updates this morning, so I don't want to repeat myself, but ready to get to work, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, colleagues, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager. It's great to be here. We did share a lot of comments this morning, as Councilmember Freeman said, so I'll just be brief and note a couple. I did want to, we did celebrate a bunch of celebrations this morning. Some staff, Gina Probst, who's now Deputy City Manager, our new OEWD Director, Josh Gunn, who may or may not be here, some great new changes in staff, which are exciting for the city. We also noted Councilmember Baker's daughter being born, which is a great celebration. But I also noted on this theme of, we've been talking about immigrants here for a second, I did want to note, where's this city clerk? Where'd she go? Did she step out for a second?
I apologize. She went to go and do the printout of the.
Oh my God, so I wanted to say that, so the city clerk's husband became a U.S. citizen in July. Super exciting, so congrats to the clerk. Please convey our congratulations to her. We also did note this morning a couple sadder things, some passings. One of which is my colleague right next to me, Mayor Pro Tem's nephew, passed away tragically. We grieve with your family and know it's a difficult time for you, so we're thinking about you. I also know that Tom Krakauer, who led the Museum of Life and Science starting in 2003, when that was very much a very local institution, built that into a nationally recognized science museum. So congratulations to Tom Krakauer on a life well lived. He also passed away last month. He was, again, a key player in the Museum of Life and Science, a key figure nationwide in the museum world, also played a really important role in getting the Museum of Durham history going. So again, our condolences to the family of Tom Krakauer, but I want to celebrate a life well lived in Durham. The last thing I want to note, again, on a tragic note, and if I can take a moment of privilege, Mr. Mayor, a person that many people in this room know, who is the former associate pastor at our church at First Pres, Marilyn Hedgepeth, who was our associate pastor for maybe 12, 15 years, later served as interim pastor for a while, and then in another transition role. She tragically passed away a couple weeks ago in a bike accident in Winston-Salem. And again, I know a lot of folks knew Marilyn Hedgepeth. She was the longtime associate to Joe Harvard. Joe was the sort of very prominent folks, a lot of folks knew Joe. Marilyn was much more understated, but very powerful in her own way. We are so sad that she passed away in this bike accident. She'll have a service later this month in Charlotte. We are a Vision Zero city, and we seek to have no deaths on our roads, either cars, pedestrians, or bikers. And so while Marilyn's death did take place in Winston-Salem, we grieve with her family at her death, and as we work here in Durham, hard on our Vision Zero goals to make sure no one dies on our roadways. So thanks for your thoughts about Marilyn Hedgepeth. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor. To my honorable colleagues, again, I want to associate myself with all the announcements made this evening. As I did earlier today, I just want to take one other opportunity, because I can't do it to everyone individually, just thank the thousands of people in this city who sent well wishes and love during my family's time. We're still in the season of bereavement. I wish I could give all of you an individual hug, but please accept this group hug to all of you who expressed condolences. I also want to, as I did earlier, thank the Durham Police Department and the HEART team. My nephew was fond of doing walkabouts the city from time to time, and had he been in a different city, well, we've seen the story, so I'm incredibly grateful. I want to thank every person on this dais for your unwavering and continued support for the HEART program. I'm so grateful to live in a city that has these type of servants and these types of initiatives for his sake. Thank you all. I also want to say that the people who are charged and get paid to vet each and every one of us to be up here do their job. It was trash when folks said Barack Obama was not born in the United States, and it's trash when a colleague up here is questioned about their citizenship. You're out of order, ma'am. First warning. Second warning. I counted two. It's trash when they did it to Barack Obama. It's trash when they do it to Councilmember Javier Caballero. Every person up here was vetted and belongs up here. Be very careful, Durham. We don't want them doing it to us, and we shouldn't allow them to do it to our brothers and sisters either. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all so much. Colleagues, just a quick agenda adjustment. Well, I'll get to that last. I just want to pause the first one. Okay. I just wanted to briefly talk about the flood that we had in northern Durham. It was pretty serious. And I, like many of my colleagues and many of you all as well, spent time in the actual neighborhood of Rippling Streams and Old Farm. You know, many of the homes there were built a long time ago. And when folks are really upset about things, I think Durham is one of the hardest governments to understand, simply because we are Durham City and Durham County, and we are the same name but two different jurisdictions. And someone fussed me out the other day and said, "Why did you let those homes be built in the floodplain?" And I listened to them, and I said, well, the fact is I wasn't born when they were built. And many of us were not. But it wasn't about that. It was about actually listening, you know, to the frustration. And I said, well, ma'am, you know, we actually don't allow development in floodplains right now to the best of our ability for these very reasons. And, you know, as I've been listening, this whole government thing is so hard to understand. And the manager and I have been talking about a new way of communicating, a better way of communicating. And so I would ask you all for your patience and just be on the lookout for just informing on how all of this stuff works. That being said, I am appreciative to the nonprofits that have been present in helping people clean out their homes. I've been in some of the homes. It is catastrophic. And I know there's been a lot of confusion around information. But we finally got, the federal administration is operating a little differently. The Small Business Administration is actually the receiving agency on residential disaster circumstances. I never would have seen it that way, but that is what it is. So it is a little confusing, but right now, at the Northern Library, you can just look on their website for the hours. The Northern Region Library has the SBA staff. They have 3 staff members there, and they have 3 staff members from the Emergency Management Services that are providing resources. You should be able to get all questions answered if you are living in the Northern Durham region and were affected by the flood. You also can apply for a loan. You can apply for a loan, and we're going to put more information out about this. We met about it today. I don't want to wait until another week or so to even mention this because we have until the end of August. But that is an option. I do want to make sure that, I exhaust all of the options by way of information and provide that publicly, so I'll continue to communicate about it. But I did want to say that Emergency Management Services, which is a partnership between the city and the county, as well as the SBA on the federal side, are providing a host of resources, including some financial assistance. And I'll continue to work and communicate with the residents over there. We've requested an update from the city, the county, and the schools on their response, on the co-response. And we'll have that on the 12th at the next joint city, county, and now schools meeting. So there'll be a lot of information shared there as well. After that, I requested a town hall with the school board chair, the county chair, myself, and inviting our colleagues, so it may be quorum, to have a town hall in the actual Northern Durham community so that we can make sure that everyone has access to this information. So if you're looking and listening online, please make sure you just keep your ear out for those resources. And Trey, if you're listening, the community captain for the Old Farm area, I'll be reaching out directly to share this again. Have fun yesterday at the Latino Festival. There's a lot of people out there, and just what I call strategic neighboring, just being able to be with folks and have each other's back, and just have a good time bringing the city together. As you all have probably noticed, there is a lot of new technology in here, and we're getting used to it, but it is a lot better in quality. You all can't see up here, but we used to have these giant computer screens that took up so much room, so we can now, it's still junky, but we can do stuff up here now. We have better voting systems, so we won't miss votes. We have a better sound system, as you can hear. The sound panels in the lobby are not permanent. We're actually going to get some sound-absorbing artwork, and we have a better sound system that will be stationed in the lobby as well. I know at the last meeting, there were some technical difficulties and folks cannot hear, so we're just addressing that as well. The pictures have moved from over here. They're out in the lobby now, but you all know what we look like. And we put a new screen here, so we have more screens in here. And you'll see momentarily what our voting system looks like. So we have this one. All right, so technical difficulties. Well, yep, Vivian, come on, help me out here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Don't clap, it makes it more embarrassing. All right, but yeah, so we're just trying to make sure we are accommodating. I think my favorite new technology device in here is the new podium. It is now, and you can clap for this. This is ADA compliant. It can go as low as someone is needed for someone who's in a wheelchair, and it can go as high as someone that's taller than me. So this is a moving device to make sure we are addressing everyone's needs. Okay, thank you. All right, and lastly, just a couple other things here. Director Ryan Smith and I just got back from Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were invited by the National Mayor's Innovation Project to present on some of the innovative practices around public safety and community safety that we're doing. And it felt really good to sit on a stage in front of cities from all over the nation and, you know, be introduced as, okay, so this is Durham, North Carolina. They're the leader and building out an expansive and innovative public safety apparatus, and ask us to talk about what we're doing around our HEART program. And there are cities all over America that are trying to implement what we've done here. And it just felt really good, and being able to talk about this work on a national scale. And we were there for days presenting over and over and over and talking about it to folks and answering questions. So kudos to our staff. You're amazing. I know I tell you that all the time, but you truly are amazing, because we can create a policy, but the policy doesn't work unless we have the right people in it. And so I'm grateful for them. Lastly, we don't say this enough. You know, we hear the news stories about gun violence, and we just, you know, once we hear the news story, it's like, oh my God, you know, what are we gonna do, this and that, this and that. But there is a lot of work that is being done in this community by nonprofits, by mentoring agencies. And when I got the report that crime was down in the city 26%, I started seeing those organizations shine brighter. And I think we need to lift them up more and more and more. So if you know of a mentoring group or a mentor, if you know of a mentee or young person that is involved in these organizations, please make sure you just give them a high five and just say thank you, because there are a lot of folks, boots on the ground, that are doing a lot of amazing work this is accredited to. So I appreciate our first responders, I appreciate our law enforcement, I appreciate our HEART team, I appreciate our nonprofits that are doing this amazing work. It does take all of us. I'm excited to work on a new holistic strategy to where hopefully we'll be able to say crime is down 50% and more in the coming months. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to working with my colleagues through all of this. And as we are going to work meeting by meeting to try and shorten things up, after my long comments in the comments area, yeah, we'll accommodate these meetings a lot more. With that being said, colleagues, I'm going to make a shift because I'm looking at my cards and I have a lot of signups virtually, and well, I have a lot of signups for the numbers 26 and 27, with items 25, 28, and 29. I have very little speakers for that, and I think they'll go by fairly quickly. I'm going to go ahead and move 25, 28, and 29 ahead of 26 and 27, because those will take just a few minutes, because it's going to be a while for the 26 and 27 cases. So just be on the lookout for that. All right. And that being said, I will now move over to City Manager Ferguson for your priority items.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. Good to be back with everyone tonight. The City Manager's office has the following priority items for this evening's meeting. First, with agenda item number 8, the resolution to support the Upper Neuse River Basin Association UNRBA FY 2026 budget. Council received a presentation at the August 4th work session held earlier today. Also, for agenda item number 20, First Amendment to contract with Application Software Technology LLC for next generation ERP implementation. This item was referred back to the Technology Solutions Department. Those are my priority items this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, I'll now pass it over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. It's good to see you. The City Attorney's Office has no priority items tonight.
Thank you, and Madam Clerk.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of City Council. I don't have any priority items, but I'm happy to update item 3, the Recreation Advisory Commission appointment when we get to it. I can either do it now. Perfect. All right. So for the Recreation Advisory Commission appointments, it's said to fill 4 vacancies. So 3 of those 4 vacancies are being filled by Laura J. DeBar, Gabrielle Rivero, Gregory Williams, and the 1 vacancy with a person with a disability category is going to be filled by Larry Dale McKeel.
Thank you. All right, and we'll move on that during the consent agenda. All right, at this time, I will read the consent agenda. Item number 1, Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities appointments. Number 2, Durham Performing Arts Center Oversight Committee appointment. Number 1, okay. I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mayor,
Ms.
item 1
Ms.
was
Peterson.
pulled.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have you, so I'll pull that and then we'll come back. Item number 1, Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disability, have that pulled. Item number 2, Durham Performing Arts Center Oversight Committee appointment. Item number 4, approval of City Council minutes. Item number 5, which has been pulled, Durham Parks and Recreation Department Revenue Performance Audit, June 2025. Okay. Item number 6, Neighborhood Improvement Services, NIS Human Relations Division, Effectiveness of Case Investigations Performance Audit, June 2025. Item number 7, Contract Renewal for Fiscal Year 26. City of Durham Domestic Violence and Gang Violence Reduction Agreement with North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. Number 8, resolution to support the Upper News River Basin Association, UNRBA, fiscal year 2026 budget. Number 9, West Woodbridge Drive infrastructure repairs. Number 10, contract with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for water quality pollutant source tracking and UT to Rockcrete and Stirrup Iron Creek. Number 11, contract for print and mail services for the City of Durham with InfoSend Incorporated. Number 12, developer request for permanent stormwater outfall easements at 1145 West Forest Hills Boulevard. Number 13, lease of North Carolina Department of Transportation NCDOT property for the American Tobacco Trail. Number 14, third amendment to contract between the City of Durham and Cornerstone On Demand Incorporated for Cornerstone Learning Management SaaS services. Number 15, contract with TrueView BSI LLC for pre-employment background screening services. Number 16, U.S. Department of Labor fiscal year 2023 through 2025 grant project ordinance for ARPA reentry supported funds for Fierce Fellows. Number 17, a contract for the administration of Phase 2 of the Durham Small Business Opportunity Fund. Number 18, athletic booking agent contract. Number 19, contract with National Testing Network Incorporated for promotional testing and assessment services. Number 21, contract with WeDriveU Incorporated for mobility broker and operations of the Go Durham Access on-demand services. Number 22, amendment number 6 with Turner and Townsend Heery LLC, contract number 13441 for program management of the water management facility expansion project. Number 23, award of bid term contract for bulk water treatment plant chemicals to Kairos LLC. Number 24, professional services contract with Freeze and Nichols Incorporated for the 2026 lift station upgrades project. Of course, on the GBA, we have received that report, Recreation Advisory Commission appointments. And for our present public hearings tonight, we have number 25, Cliff Street partial street closing. Number 26, zoning map change for 401 East Lakewood Avenue. Number 27, zoning map change, Durham Rescue Mission East Main Street. Number 28, revisions to Durham City Code regarding stormwater facility replacement fund and perpetual surety requirements. And number 29, public hearing and approval of the draft 5-year 2025 through 2029 consolidated plan, 2025 annual action plan, and citizen participation plan. Those are our consent items, with items number 1 and 5 pulled, and of course, we have our public hearings. I will go back up to number 1, the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and I have Ms. Victoria Peterson. You may, I think the mic is already on over here, and watch your step.
Yes, whoops,
Hold on one second.
it's moving a little bit here on me.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's new. We're going to raise that up too.
Oh, is this what you were speaking about?
Yep. Well, that moves out and up. Little higher, please. Is there, Vivi, is there a way to lock the top part from sliding in and out? All right, thank you. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
I have 2 minutes?
3 minutes.
Hmm?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
That varies based on like the speaker load, so.
Many of you, my name is Mrs. Peterson, Victoria Peterson. I've lived in this community for quite a few years. I graduated from one of the greatest universities in this country, and that's North Carolina Central University. Over several years ago, it's been 3 years now, I received a phone call. My husband and I received a phone call that a baby was being born and he was still in the womb. And there was a possibility that he could have been homeless or either aborted. My husband and I added a new addition to our family. And we've had Mr. James for well over 3 years now. And woo, don't answer your phone anymore at night. But that's okay, that's still a good thing. What I wanted to share and ask our city, we have a lot of children who are falling through the cracks. My son has been diagnosed with autism. If you know anything about autism, when I heard about it, I started crying. But I had to do my research. You cannot go by what people say. My son is very bright. I'm here to ask this council to revisit your Parks and Recreation programs and add to help children who fall on the spectrum. W.D. Hill, and I want all parents that are listening tonight, W.D. Hill has an awesome outside rec. It is gated. You hear me? It is gated. If anybody has a child that is autism, they understand what that means. That means your child can run around and will not run out in the street or go in an area where they're not supposed to. They are secure. But the problem that I'm seeing, Mayor Williams, is the activity for these kids. For the kids that are 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old who fall on the spectrum. So this new group of appointments, I'm asking the city council and our citizens to start advocating to make sure that we are bringing folks on in the government who have an understanding about children who are falling on the spectrum. I want to just give you this little information here. Durham Public School has over 15,000 children who qualify for the IEP. I don't want to go into all that, what that means. But if anybody is in this room and anyone that is listening, You know what an IEP is. When you have over 15,000 children that have been diagnosed with that, that's something very serious. You
Thank you.
cannot throw that under the rug.
Thank you. It's really important information, and I would
I think
be glad to speak with you again further.
and thank you.
But stay right there, because I have you also pulling item number 5, Durham Parks and Recreation,
Great.
performance audit,
So when
revenue
you-
performance audit.
So when you have so many children that are falling through the cracks that they do not get the help. Now, my background is criminal justice. I used to work in the big house. The big house is Central Prison. I worked in the prison system. My eyes have opened up now. I have always wondered, how come we have so many men of color involved or caught up in that criminal justice system? And there was one thing that I observed years ago. A lot of them could not read and write. And when you cannot read and write, if you cannot function, then you're going to have a problem out here getting a good job and a good skill. So I'm also, and I think that's part of the problem, because I think a lot of our young men or boys, when they were coming up, had issues. And a lot of minority children don't get the kind of help that they should if they've been diagnosed with a condition of autism or some of those other various disabilities that are out here. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking for number 5, for the Parks and Recreation to put monies aside, start working with W.D. Hill. They already have a gated community, okay? And parents, that facility stays open until 9 o'clock at night. My son, sometimes 7 and 8 o'clock, he needs a place to run. And we go over there, Mr. Mayor, we allow him to run around and be free. But other parents, you also have children. Stop yelling at them. Stop fussing with them. Bring them over to W.D. Hill in the evening. We're going to try to encourage this city government to develop some programs for children who are autism and for children who fall through the cracks. Mayor Milton, I think as a pastor and as a minister, I'm sure you understand that we have people in our community who have various different kinds of issues. So that's what I would like to ask our citizens and our representatives, to please hire some folks who have an understanding of what autism is and who also have an understanding of children who have various disabilities, starting at the age of 3, 4, 5, and 6. Most of your programs are for your older kids. So the toddlers are not getting the kind of help that they need. Now, I will say this, the Durham public school system now will take children, Mr. Mayor, that are 3 years old. We've got to hand it to them now. If you have a 3-year-old child and that child has been diagnosed with autism, the school system
Thank you.
will accept that child. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, City Council members, for allowing me to share that.
All right. It's good work. All right, and Mr. Zaidi? Item number 5. Yeah. And colleagues, I'll go back and ask for a motion on items 1 and 5 in just a minute. No, we haven't. Wait, yeah, it'll be 1, 5, and everything. My apologies. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Williams and council members.
Could you pull that mic down?
Yes.
There you
Can you
go.
hear me now? Okay. Good evening, council members. This is very dear and near to me. I lost a son that led, grandson, in 1983. Some of the same engineers that you are using in these parks for lead, we use the same people. Lead still exists in Portsmouth, Virginia. we went before the district courts in Norfolk, Virginia, and EPA, who had the land evaluated after these engineers left, and it was in worse condition than when they came. I don't believe, as Mr. James Chambers and former council candidate Sherry Rosenthal said previously, when we came before Mr. Chadwell and them Parks and Recreation, that lead has been removed. We still have hot spots. If not, why are we investing money in 5 more areas? Why are we investing money in 5 more new parks if those parks have been thoroughly cleaned? There was no community engagement that would satisfy the entire community. Tonight, I must say that lead is still there. Our children have been affiliated with those parks, need to be examined by the health department. As Ms. Patterson was saying, they will come up with all kinds of physical conditions. Lead is a carcinogen. It travels. It don't stay in one spot. Lead that was here today is over here tomorrow. So I'm trying to tell you parents, don't fall for the bojangle, the hoodwinking that you have been given that these parks are clean. They are not clean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just another technical matter. We are trying to get the closed captioning up, but the meeting is being recorded, and that will give us the ability to provide a transcript or a captioning post-meeting.
Can I make a motion?
All right. So we've read the consent agenda. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
No, I'm sorry.
No.
All right. At this time, I entertain a motion to
So
approve the
moved.
consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All right. No. Now you have the screen tap, so. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
I apologize, Mr. Mayor. The system isn't allowing me to. So I appreciate your patience.
Just for clarity, this is the consent agenda with all of the items, including the pulled ones. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right. Council members, please vote. Madam Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
If everyone will look at the screens, this is what it looks like now, the percentage, as well as the names on the side on the screen. So much more information. And now the clerk doesn't have to read it out. Well, I guess you do, so we can have it on closed caption. All right, thank you. Okay, as stated, I am going to adjust the, because I have a lot of speakers for 2 cases and maybe 1 or 2 for the others. So I'm going to adjust and move items 25, 28, and 29 ahead of 26 and 27. So colleagues will now, staff will now hear case number 25. This is Cliff Street, partial street closing. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Jaleesa Harris, Staff Planner, Land Development Review in the Planning and Development Department. Staff requests that all Planning and Development Department testimony and materials presented be made part of the permanent record. This street closing request, SC 2500001, is for the permanent closure of a 402 linear foot portion of Cliff Street between Blunt Street and Rosedale Avenue. The portion of Cliff Street as shown in Attachment A, the context map, proposed for closure has not been open and does not contain any public improvement or uses. If closed, the 19,965 square foot, 0.46 acre of right-of-way will be recombined with the adjacent parcel identified with REID 107722 and the address 1700 Cliff Street. The recombination will create a 1.5 acre parcel as shown on the associated street closing and recombination plat attachment D. The new parcel is intended to be reserved for development in the future, for which plans have not yet been specified by the property owners. The parcels adjacent to the Cliff Street portion are also owned by the parties requesting the closure. If the proposed partial street closure is approved by council pursuant to North Carolina General Statute Section 160D 501 and 160D 605, the parcel identified with REID 107722 as recombined with the former dedicated right-of-way should be designated established residential on the place type map of the comprehensive plan. This request was submitted to service agencies for review and comment. All substantive comments were addressed during the review of the case, except the advisory bike pedestrian comment indicating the closure may limit access to future Rockwood Trail and thereby does not conform with the Comprehensive Plan Transportation Policy 57. The right-of-way is not maintained by the city. It does not provide any connectivity between public streets, and the right-of-way is heavily wooded and unimproved. The closure of this right-of-way and recombination will not result in the loss of street frontage for any lots adjacent to the right-of-way. An adjacent parcel, 1700 Sycamore Street, REID 107739, is surrounded on all sides by unimproved rights-of-way, including Cliff Street and single-family homes. The partial closure of the unimproved Cliff Street portion will retain street frontage potential for this parcel should the other adjacent unimproved rights-of-ways become improved. The recombination will provide street frontage for 1700 Cliff Street, which is currently surrounded by 3 different unimproved rights-of-ways and single-family homes. The street frontage will be created by the intersection of the unimproved portion of Cliff Street proposed for closure and the improved adjacent portion of Cliff Street. Staff is available for questions, and the applicant should be here to speak.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, any questions for staff? All right, you've heard the staff report. I'll now declare this public hearing open. I only have one resource person. I don't have any speakers. Therefore, I will declare the public hearing closed and back before the council. Councilmember Baker.
Yeah. Actually do have some questions for staff here. I promise I'm not trying to catch you off guard. The city's been doing a lot of work around paper streets. I'm wondering if this portion came into question during that work on paper streets that the city has been doing?
I think a better resource person for that particular question would be Bo Dobrinsky, our Assistant Director.
Bo Dobrinsky, Planning and Development Department. This particular paper street wasn't analyzed in depth. Many of them were. We looked at them holistically. I would say, though, as the advisory comment points out, this does appear to be an opportunity where the existing dedicated right-of-way would connect to a trail and provide additional connections. So if accepted and improvements were made, it would be a paper street that presents an opportunity.
Was there any discussion around a potential pedestrian access easement as part of this?
Not that I'm aware of with
And it's,
with the applicant.
this kind of rezoning, we couldn't make that suggestion and see if the applicant was open to it.
I mean, so
We can't apply conditions to this site.
we don't have any application for development here, so I have no,
Through the rezoning, we can't do that.
through the street closing now.
Sure, excuse me, the street closing, yes. Okay, and then is section 13.4.3, the block length standards, I think the maximum block perimeter in this zoning district is 4,000. Is that applicable here?
That's not one of the criteria that need to be met for you all to make the decision.
Okay, okay. So the staff report did say that staff finds that closing this right-of-way could potentially adversely affect the general public by limiting access to the planned Rockwood Trail. So the balance here is, it's all forested, there isn't any plan to connect, but we lose that connection, we lose that public right-of-way to potentially connect to a trail by vacating this and essentially selling it to adjacent.
That's correct. Yeah, the dedicated right-of-way, obviously it's not accepted for maintenance, but it does present a situation where an additional connection that wasn't necessarily thought of could be made to the planned trail.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd be open to this. I think there would have been an opportunity here to both allow for additional development and potentially get a pedestrian access easement that could have been improved. I do have heartburn sort of losing connectivity because that goes against what we have in the comprehensive plan. So just some of my thinking there. But thank you for answering my questions.
Colleagues, I actually need to reopen this public hearing due to technical difficulties. So I'm going to reopen it, hear the comment of the person who signed up. They just clicked the wrong, we have a new sign-up option and people are getting used to it. So I want to make sure that we are giving grace to that. Then I'll bring it back before us. So I'll declare this public hearing back open. And Mr. Hamilton, you will come on up. Welcome, you have 3 minutes. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get rid of having a bunch of paper up here, so we're moving everything to digital.
I understand. Thank you. I am Eric Hamilton, 1706 Rosedale Avenue. Now, this is actually my application, so fairly clearly I am.
Sir, would you move a little closer to the microphone, please? Just a little.
How is this?
Okay, let me get just a little clarity. You're the applicant or proponent or what?
I am the applicant.
Okay, you're the applicant. Okay.
Yes,
all right.
yes, indeed.
So, yep, you're entitled to speak. I apologize. You signed up for the wrong thing, but we're going to figure this out, so no worries. All right, so that means, how much time do you need?
Few minutes.
All right, so Madam Clerk, if you can give 5 minutes, please.
Very well, thank you. The packet that came with the meeting agenda, which of course has been published with the meeting agenda and you'll be familiar with, basically reflects the situation as described by staff. So I'm only going to touch very quickly on the high points here. As the meeting packet and report shows, this is currently a street to nowhere. It's heavily wooded. It terminates in another chunk of heavy woods and the junction of a number of other heavily wooded paper streets. Closing this street is not going to cost access to any property. In fact, if you look at the map, it seems clear that the property to the south of Cliff Street can only be developed by building Blunt Street through, from Blunt Street south from Ward through. Closing Cliff, as the packet shows, our piece of cliff does not cost any access to any existing lot. The real advantage of doing this is that when it is combined, it turns a 100-foot by 400-foot lot of really fairly awkward placement of buildings onto it into a 150 by 400-foot lot with far greater development flexibility and with which we can do much more. The The main concern here, of course, is that the proposed but not yet built Rockwood Trail runs south from Ward Street to basically to the intersection of the paper Cliff Street and the paper Blunt Street, and then proceeds south from there. Should our piece of Cliff Street be closed, there is access to that point from two other streets, Blunt Street, south from Ward, which I repeat is the logical way of accessing the entire area, and also from James Street east on the portion of Cliff Street that we are not proposing to close. And finally, the access point that we're talking about here is 1 block south of where the trail crosses Ward Street anyway. So although there is some loss of access to the relatively few people currently living on Rosedale in the developed portion of Cliff, I believe that the balance here favors closing Cliff Street, that it will not interfere with the development of the area, and the loss of access to the trail through that 1 block is going to be small. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed and back before the council. Colleagues, are there any questions for the applicant or staff? Councilmember Caballero, I know you had a comment. You good? Okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Councilmember Rist.
Mr. Dobrinsky or staff, just I'm looking at the comments that were submitted by Brian Taylor about the proposed Rockwood Trail, right? So and I'm just trying to understand the map I'm looking at. So that trail would cross Ward Street a few blocks above where the proposal is to close this Cliff Street. And then does the Rockwood Trail not come across, is that Rosedale? Does it not come across Rosedale right there south of Cliff Street, if I get that right? Or is that also a paper street?
I'm sorry. Ma'am, it's not even being communicated, so I want to.
Yeah, I don't have the plan in front of me, but I know that it goes along the left side as you're looking at the page, and the right-of-way to be closed, which would provide sort of a additional connection left-right. I don't know the distance to where it crosses below. We'll look it up for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Hamilton, are you able to answer that question? Councilmember Rist.
So the proposed trail is going kind of south. Where does it, below Cliff Street, the portion you're requesting to be closed, where does the trail then next intersect with a street?
It intersects Ward Street 1 block north of Cliff, and I do not know, actually, because I haven't looked that far south, where it next intersects with a paper street. I believe that it will intersect Southwood, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, so if staff could just clarify where south of Cliff Street, where it would intersect with the next roadway.
But I must stress, the trail as it passes the part of Cliff Street that we propose to close is passing the left-hand west, is to the left and west of the end of the area that we propose to close.
Councilmember Rist, it does not. It stays to the left and doesn't.
So where would so it does intersect, again, the proposed trail with Ward Street above, north of Cliff Street. So what's the next street that trail would then?
University. further south.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. The, how far in the future are we talking about for this trail? Do we have any idea?
I would have to defer to, yeah, I'm not with the Parks and Recs department, so if anyone.
Well, while you rally your folk, I asked because it seems like we have two speculative future kind of events. Usually these are pretty routine, these street closings. They're usually non-controversial, no adverse impact to thoroughfares for the city. However, it seems like we're balancing a future trail with future development. And if I've read correctly, you don't know what's going to go on that recombined acreage yet. You just want it closed. If you approach the microphone, Mr. Hamilton, is that correct? You have no, you basically want it closed because in the future, you may do some development on it.
We have engaged.
Get close to the microphone, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we have engaged an architect and are currently working on them to develop that property. We aren't far enough along to have anything to submit, but.
What do you plan on putting there, if I may ask?
Our plan is to position a single-family home on it, which we will move into ourselves and for our own occupancy, basically moving next door, and to position it in such a way that there is no impediment to placing ADUs or additional residential units on the tract of land. That's why the flexibility of having that additional land, 150 feet by 400 instead of 100 feet by 400, is substantial.
Sure. So this is for family use. Initially, this is essentially for family use, personal
yes,
dwelling.
Sure. Basically, we are living in a two-story house now and have hit a point in our life where the disadvantages of two-story living are becoming apparent, and we so want to stay in the neighborhood.
Understood. While we're trying to figure out how far in the future the trail is, you have any ballpark, and you don't have any ballpark anticipation of when you may want to develop if it were closed?
As I said, we have engaged an architect now for our use of the land. Now, as to what happens to the trail, all we know is that it is proposed and certainly would be a good thing to have.
Sure. Thank you very much, colleagues. As I've already stated, usually if it's a resident and it's their personal abode, I usually come down on just letting our residents and neighbors live, as you were, but I understand the importance of trail access with this future. So I guess I'm trying to weigh what ordinarily for me would be a pretty routine vote, but I'm curious as to which should prevail here with this particular case. DCM Chadwell, were you going to say something?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, Keith Chadwell. In the packet, it shows a representation of the proposed trail. To my knowledge, as I stand here, it's not in any near-term funding options for development at this time. We can only confirm that a little later, but I'm not aware that it's in any near-term plans in the transportation for funding, for immediate funding.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just one question for staff. Is there some balance here? What would it take to say we're going to vacate the majority of this right-of-way, but leave some for a future connection? Or would that have to be an entirely new application?
Can you repeat that again? I apologize.
What would be the process to say we are going to sell the majority of this right-of-way? They're requesting the entire right-of-way in that one Paper Street block length. What if we said we'll sell everything, but we want to keep 10 feet of right-of-way for a future connection?
The petition, I mean, that would be a different petition as he's.
That would have to be an entirely new application.
Yeah, he's petitioning to close the entirety of the right-of-way, that portion, so that's what's before you.
And just, Mr. Dobrinsky, thanks again. Just confirm, so there's no sale, we're just closing the street, there's not a sale,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, and what you said before is that in the process of closing the street, within that process, there's no provisions for some kind of easement for public access, correct?
Certainly, as he chooses to develop the property, he could provide this type of access, but before you hear is just a petition to close the right-of-way. So,
Yeah, I guess I have the same question as Councilmember Baker, like, what's the process it seems like there's got to be a way to find a middle ground here where the proposal here to combine will allow the development of that plot, right? But we wouldn't lose public access. And Mr. Mayor, I'm particularly concerned, given right now we're in the process, as many of you know, of developing plans for the Durham to Roxborough Rail Trail. And we've received a lot of emails from folks who are upset about their property on the trail, access to the trail. So that's a real issue. And I would hate to make this closure and then later lose access to the public. So it seems like I appreciate the applicant's interest here, but I don't want to sort of have the unintended consequences of then losing access when we are trying to build that in our trails and greenways. So.
I was just going to ask, is it possible to refer this back so that staff can analyze it a little bit further around the trail?
I would probably refer to the applicant on that. Mr. Hamilton, Councilmember Freeman's suggestion is referring it back to staff to better analyze how, and Councilmember Freeman, correct me if I'm wrong, if there can be like a win-win.
Essentially, just knowing that the loss of access would likely be a no for me, I would prefer to let staff analyze it a little bit further to figure out how that route could be realigned and see if there's some negotiation in where that line is. If you're amenable to that, that would be great. If not, we can move forward.
One moment.
Yes, we're certainly would be delighted to work with staff more to deal with those reservations if necessary. That's certainly possible. Now, I will point out that there is, as I read the map in the packet, there is access to basically the same point in the trail, either through Blunt Street from the north or Cliff Street, moving from James Street further to the west and heading eastward to the same point.
And I wouldn't even argue that with you. I would just ask staff to just make sure that that's clearly denoted in this case before we move forward.
Very well, yes, as I say, we're certainly prepared to work with staff more if there are further concerns that have to be resolved.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, and I thank Councilmember Freeman for her questions and observations. My only concern is the trail does not exist yet. It's a proposition. And we've seen things that have been planned before and did not come to fruition. And the scope of the case before us right now, as it exists right now, the facts that we have before us right now, we have a resident who there's a line in the memo that says staff does not see any adverse impacts on what we're doing right now. I just want to be very careful to base our governance on speculation, particularly when we're not talking about a millionaire developer here. We're talking about a resident, and particularly given how routine these closings are. I mean, in theory, every time we close a road, there may be something in the future that comes along that will inhibit us, which is why we make our decisions based upon the facts that are before us right at that moment. We can always speculate that something's going to happen. So I'm certainly amenable to Councilmember Freeman's recommendation to remand it back to staff, but if we don't come up with, suppose we come up with something and we never build the trail, because as of now, it's a proposition, it's speculative, it may or may not happen. And I want to make sure we govern based upon within the scope of what is before this council right now. But with that said, I'll certainly support further talking if the applicant's amenable.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would just say that I think the plan, the master plan for the trail is a plan that we're working towards. And so it's a little bit of more than speculation, kind of like just trying to make sure we're leaving that option available. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and all of our plans have always come to pass.
All right. Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you. Very quickly, how quickly does staff think? I don't want to, I mean, sometimes our calendar's booked out, and I don't want to leave this resident waiting for months and months.
Yeah, we'll check the calendar and see just, I mean, I don't think the
'Cause it's
discussions would
okay.
take
It's
a
a
significant amount of time.
straightforward case,
Yeah.
you know, so we could, even if it's a night that has a few, I don't think that it would take long, so I don't want that to, since the applicant's amenable, thank you, to pausing until we can get it worked out, then I think if we can get them back quickly, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Certainly.
Can I ask a question about the proposed route of the trail? I mean, is there not a way to, I'm assuming there's probably been work put in to propose this route, but is it not a possibility to reroute around this property?
I can't speak to the trail, the way it's planned, but I will say is the right-of-way that we're discussing is an additional connection beyond the connection on Ward, as the applicant had stated. So in terms of rerouting, I don't know if that's what we're looking at here. What we're actually looking at is an additional connection.
Mayor, I can elaborate. The extent to which trail alignments are shown in a master plan like this, I believe the source of this, based on the information I found online, is the DPR comprehensive plan was the source of these. Typically at that level, it's a conceptual route. They look at available land, potential connections, and that's the level of work that's gone into it. Certainly before a trail were to be moved towards construction and design, a detailed design process would be underway. So at this point, we have a conceptual routing to your question about, are there alternatives? Certainly that is something that would be determined at a later date, but I think, we'd be happy to provide more context around that process with this referral back to staff and the alternatives of building, not building, or what sort of design flexibility we might have at that point.
Thank you. Thank you for being open to referring it back to staff. I think it's an opportunity to find a win-win. I don't want to prevent you from being able to expand your housing. I mean, it'll expand the tax base. It'll provide roofs over more people's heads. So I think you said you're going to do ADUs or something like that. But also at the same time, being able to have an option to have trails. We want a higher trail score. So I would ask staff with this referral back to you to try and find a win-win. I'd love to see government more creative and innovative than just black and white. All right? Yeah, Councilmember Baker.
Yeah, just one last thing. I think with this case, connectivity is obviously an issue, and it's one that we have stated pretty clearly and through policy that we want connectivity in the comprehensive plan. This is a case where maybe conditions on the ground are such that there are enough connections, or maybe there aren't, and we're losing one. And I just hope that in the future, maybe to save applicants some time, these kinds of questions are anticipated a little bit more and worked on a little bit more before they come to us, so that we don't need to refer them back. I know that we can't do that all the time, but I hope that we can sometimes try and anticipate those big questions and address them before they get to council. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
How much? I want to associate myself with Councilmember Baker's comments, but to my point, that's the issue with anticipatory government, which is why we make decisions based upon the facts as they are now. The plan, we do things, we approve, we don't approve things that are within our urban growth boundary, and that's in the comprehensive plan. I mean, we do things that contravene our plan all the time. So I just want to be fair to folk when they bring cases before us in real time based upon the facts that exist before us now, that, you know, individual residents don't bear the brunt of our speculation. We haven't even gotten to the design phase yet. It may very well be that we don't use that, because that's the nature of plans. So I don't want to oversell what we're going to do in consultation with the staff, because we don't know where this ingress or egress is going to be yet. And I don't want to lock folk unnecessarily into something that may not come to pass, and they may have had an opportunity to fully exploit land that we kept as an easement that we wind up. Because even if we do that, it doesn't obligate us in the future as a city to say, oh, well, we did this then, so we've got to put the park, you know, the trail entrance there, because as we get into the design phase, we may find things in the ground that won't allow us to do it. I mean, all kinds of things can happen. So I'm a big fan of, particularly when it's just, you know, we're not talking about a multi-million-dollar developer. When residents come before us, that we govern based upon what we've advertised in and what the facts are at that moment. But with that said, I'm glad, you know, we're willing to talk, but I don't want to oversell anything to you, because we don't know. It's a plan. Thank you.
Very quick question. How long has this application been in the works? How long did it take from them applying to getting it in front of us? I don't see it on the memo.
While Bo's looking up the original application date, I'm just estimating about maybe 5 or 6 months. Each plat undergoes 30-day business day review period. So most of the comments are provided, you know, that first review. The second review, which is plat did undergo, I think just planning and bike ped had comments remaining.
And if there was a new application with a shorter amount of linear feet, would we have to repeat all of that process again, or could it, because it's relevant to the same plots?
It would not need to be the same.
What?
The modifications we'll be able to review faster and help get through the process and not go through the same steps again.
They would not have to go through the same steps again. So we could have an expedited, if it were just a reduction in the linear feet, we could have an expedited application.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by being a little more than just black and white. I appreciate that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, and everyone I'm sure can hear, and you can hear as the applicant, the concern, right, is that we lose a public right-of-way that, again, we don't know for sure if we're going to use it, but it's not part of the property that you have purchased, right? It's not something that you already have the right to use. And then if we then later needed to purchase or buy an easement to get access to a trail, then that's going to cost taxpayer money, right? We just are in the process of doing all of these trails and park builds. And so I understand that it is a future plan, but I certainly don't want to then have us spend taxpayer money to get something back that we already had. And if it would be a fast process to have a slight reduction in the linear feet, and if that would still be able to get y'all the space that you need for the development that you're looking for, just a conversation that you might want to have with staff, given that what you've heard up here. Thanks.
All right, so we are referring this back to staff, and they'll let us know on, actually, yeah, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to declare this public hearing back open for the third time. And we are going to refer this back to staff, which means the public hearing stays open. And I would encourage you reaching out to staff, and if we can try and find a win-win here. And I think oh, Bo, are you working on that for me? A date?
Yeah, I think we could do the October 20th.
October 20th. All right. Mr. Hamilton, you got that? All right, so the public hearing will remain open as we refer this back to staff, and we'll hear this again on October 20th.
I have a point of inquiry.
Yes, sir.
Madam Attorney, you might want to weigh in on this one. I just want to understand what's going to happen between now and then. What is the best case scenario that you can theoretically bring back to us? That we do a partial closing and leave some that we might use for a, what might happen? What could we possibly bring back to us that would be compelling or substantively different than what we discussed tonight?
Yeah, I mean, since the plan is conceptual and there's not a full design, I
Okay.
imagine, an easement of some sort is and the best case scenario, or maybe not the best case scenario, but that is the option. Of course, the other option is altering the right-of-way to be closed. I don't know enough about the applicant's intentions in terms of what's to be developed. So, but the first step will be to sit down and have those conversations.
Thank you. I yield back.
All right, thank you. It's been referred back to council, and we'll hear this case again on October 20th. I'm sorry, back to staff. Thank you. Next item, number 28. Revisions to Durham City Code regarding stormwater facility replacement fund and perpetual surety requirements.
Good evening, Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of City Council. I am Akin Akinola with the Planning and Development Department. This item proposes to amend the city's stormwater ordinance to bring it into compliance with North Carolina General Statute 160D-925 as amended by Session Law 2023-108. Specifically, we are proposing revisions to sections 70-742 through 70-743 and 70-750 through 70-752, and the creation of a new section 70-753 within Chapter 70, Articles 10 and 11 of the City Code. Previously, the city required owners of stormwater control measures to provide perpetual maintenance sureties or to participate in the city's Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund program. This fund, created in 2008, functioned as an insurance fund to provide financial assistance for the long-term maintenance and repair of permitted stormwater control measures. However, Section Law 2023-108 prohibits local governments from collecting or managing such a fund. Also, any payments previously collected must be returned upon request. In response, revisions to the City Code are needed to bring it into compliance with NGCS 160D-925 and Session Law 2023-108. The public hearing was noticed in accordance with state and local requirements. There are 3 motions that the administration recommends that City Council approve. First, to conduct a public hearing to receive public comment on proposed amendment to Durham City Ordinances, Chapter 70, Article 10, Sections 70-742 through 70-743, and Article 11, Sections 70-750 through 70-752, and a proposed amendment to Article 11 to create Section 70-753 titled Refund of Payment into Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund. Second, to adopt an ordinance amending Durham City Code Chapter 70, Article 10, titled Stormwater Performance Standards for Development, Sections 70-742 through 70-743, and Durham City Code Chapter 70, Article 11, titled Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund, Sections 70-750 through 70-752. And third, to adopt an ordinance amending Durham City Code Chapter 70, Article 11, titled Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund, by creating Section 70-753 titled Refund of Payment into Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. You've heard the staff report. Colleagues, are there any questions for staff? All right, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. And I did not have any speakers, so at this time, I'll declare the public hearing closed to back before council. Again, are there any questions? Great. All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to conduct a public hearing. Do I have to read that? No. All right. Yeah. All right. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance amending Durham City Code, Chapter 70, Article 10, titled Stormwater Performance Standards for development sections 70 through 742 through 70 dash, I'm sorry, let me go back and say that. Sections 70-742 through 70-743, and Durham City Code, Chapter 70, Article 11, titled Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund, Sections 70-750 through 70-752.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Please vote. All right, Madam Clerk, please close the vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I'll also entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the Durham City Code, Chapter 70, Article 11, titled Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund, by creating Section 70-753, titled Refund of Payment into Stormwater Facility Replacement Fund.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam, please vote. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. I know all of the public hearings are going to be just as quick, right? That was 25, 28, number 29 was, okay, yeah, number 29, all right, public hearing and approval of the draft 5-year consolidated plan, 2025 annual action plan, and citizen participation plan. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of the City Council. My name is Maggie Carnegie, and I serve as the Acting Assistant Director of Fiscal and Planning for the Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive citizen comments on the city's draft 5-year for 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan, the 2025 annual action plan, and the citizen participation plan. The draft consolidated plan specifies how the City of Durham will address housing and community development needs for the next 5 years through the use of our Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funding, Home Investment Partnerships Program, home funding, Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG funding, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, or HOPWA funding. These are our 4 formula block grant entitlement funding sources. The 5-year consolidated plan will cover the period beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030. The consolidated plan is carried out through the annual action plan, which provides more specific details about how the city will use our formula block grant funding during the 2025 program year. This covers the period beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The Citizen Participation Plan identifies and sets forth policies and procedures for ensuring residents are aware of the projects funded with formula block grants and encourages their participation in the development and review of all corresponding planning documents. To support development of these planning documents, we conducted a first public needs hearing on January 21st, 2025. A stakeholder and resident survey was distributed from June 6th to the 19th, 2025, receiving a total of 42 responses. A public meeting was held on June 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Holton Career and Resource Center. Meetings were facilitated with city staff, stakeholders, and the Homeless Services Advisory Committee, or HSAC, to support consultation efforts in the development of these planning documents. The city also examined local housing conditions, community development challenges, and opportunities for neighborhood improvement. The result is a focused strategy to enhance the quality of life for our residents, particularly those with low to moderate income, through projects that address affordable housing and homelessness goals. The priorities outlined in the 5-year consolidated plan include increasing affordable rental housing, homeownership housing, and housing stability services, and housing and prevention services for those experiencing homelessness. Over the next 5 years, these priorities will guide the planning and implementation of the consolidated plan. On May 14th, 2025, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, notified the city of our entitlement amounts for the 2025 program year. The city expects to receive $1,936,725 in CDBG funding, $977,088.20 in home consortium funding, $176,018 in ESG funding, and $1,106,643 in HOPWA funding. Use of this funding is outlined in the 2025 Annual Action Plan. A summary of the projects to be funded includes rapid rehousing for households experiencing homelessness, tenant-based rental assistance, or TBRA, short-term rent mortgage and utility assistance, or STRMU, supportive services, permanent housing placement, and resource identification for individuals and their families living with HIV and AIDS in the Durham Eligible Metropolitan Statistical Area, or EMSA, affordable rental housing and home ownership activities for low to moderate income households, a Section 108 loan repayment, public services for households experiencing homelessness, and administrative activities. Copies of the draft 5-year 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan, 2025 Annual Action Plan, and Citizen Participation Plan are available on the Housing and Neighborhood Services webpage as attachments for this evening's agenda item, or review in person at the following locations: the City of Durham Clerk's Office, the Durham County Clerk's Office, and the Durham County Main Branch Library. The planning documents are available for a 30-day public comment period as required by HUD. This public comment period began on July 11th and will conclude on August 11th. A summary of comments from this public hearing and written comments received from residents during the public comment period will be incorporated into the final draft of the planning document prior to our submission to HUD on August 16th, 2025 via the Integrated Disbursement and Information System, or IDIS. I am available as needed for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You've heard the staff report. Questions for staff before we open the public hearing? All right. I'll now declare this public hearing open. I have one speaker, Ms. Haley Cunningham. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Dr. Haley Cunningham. I'm the co-chair of the Coalition to End the HIV Epidemic in Durham.
Could you speak a little closer to that mic?
Yes.
There you go.
I'm also, my name is Dr. Haley Cunningham. I'm a HIV care provider and also the co-chair of the Coalition to End the HIV Epidemic in Durham. Our coalition seeks to unite and strengthen local HIV support organizations by securing equitable funding and building capacity. Our coalition includes organizations and community leaders with invaluable experience and understanding of HOPWA, of homelessness support services, and of diverse populations living with HIV. At the same time, they are crippled by insufficient funds and limited capacity, and community members with lived experience remained unhoused and untreated. The prior 2 years of HOPWA funding remain untouched, and the coalition submitted a proposal in May in response to an RFP, but have yet to learn the outcome 2 months after the date initially promised for notification. As the annual action plan funding chart stands, organizations responsible for all HOPWA activities are labeled as TBD. The drafted plan states that the city will undergo a strategic planning process, and we respectfully request a seat at the table to ensure HOPWA funding is used effectively and in a timely manner. We also again request $2.5 million for coordination, including $200,000 for Hopwa strategic planning to identify capacity building and housing development needs across the 5 counties within our Hopwa region. While a significant amendment was passed in April to amend the consolidated and annual action plans to encompass all possible Hopwa activities, the proposed plans do not include the acquisition, rehabilitation, or new construction of housing units. The housing development should be included in the 5-year consolidated plan. Finally, the Hopwa data presented in the draft states that there have been 0 cumulative cases of AIDS and 0 new HIV cases reported in the past year. This is simply not true. At a time when funds are haphazardly deemed unnecessary at a federal level, it is imperative that we understand and correctly report the present degree of need, which is profound. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are all of the speakers that I have. So I'll declare the public hearing closed and back before the council. Are there any questions? Yep, go ahead.
Dr. Cunningham, would you mind sending your speech to us by email? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the draft 5-year 2025 through 2029 consolidated plan, 2025 annual action plan, and citizen participation plan upon closure of the public hearing.
Moved as read.
Second.
It's been moved as part.
Just clarify, so you said to adopt the draft 5-year plan? We're adopting the 5-year plan.
This is the draft, correct?
It is the draft plan. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development will, upon their review and approval, will convert it to a final plan. So you are giving us the authority to submit this plan to HUD via the Integrated Disbursement and Information System.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, will you please execute your vote? I need one more person to vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Did someone not vote?
Wasn't me.
Did everyone vote?
Councilmember Freeman did not vote.
All right, this is recorded as unanimous. Thank you. All right, good. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead to item number 26. All right. Well, this is going to be a while. So, colleagues, do you want to take a, I know we're not doing closed captioning. Would you all like to take a bio break real quick? We're going to be here for a while on this one. All right. Let's hold on one moment. Let's take a quick, let's just really quick, 5 minutes and 5-10 minutes and get back to it. All right, we're in recess until 9 p.m.
Hi, am I supposed to, I wasn't going to do anything yet, but I didn't know if I was supposed to raise it. I think this is probably the right height for me, don't you think?
I think, let me see, if you can talk into the microphone.
Yeah, I could
So
just.
what I'm going to do is actually move this.
Let's bring it back to order, please. All right, thank you all so much. We can come in and please close the doors. All right, thank you all so much. We can make sure those doors are closed. All right, ready for the staff report. This is item number, which one are we on? 26, right? Yep, 26, zoning map change for 1 East Lakewood Avenue.
Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, one moment.
Suspend for just a second.
Try it.
Hello.
There you go.
we go. Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and honorable council members. Good evening. I am Peyton Burgess with the Planning and Development Department, and I am happy to be here with you tonight. Before I begin, staff would like to state for the record that all Planning Department hearing items have been advertised and noticed in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits of all notices are on file in the Planning Department. Jamie Schwiedler of Parker Poe proposes to change the zoning designation of 2 parcels of land totaling 9.65 acres and located at 401 East Lakewood Avenue and 600 Fayetteville Street. The current zoning is Downtown Design Support 1 and Downtown Design Support 2. The applicant proposes to change this designation to Downtown Design Core through a general rezoning to allow for an increase in building height maximums. The properties are currently designated downtown on the place type map. The proposed Downtown Design Core zoning is consistent with the designated place type. As a reminder, this case was continued from the June 16, 2025 meeting. The public hearing was open, but public comment has not yet been taken. Thank you. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions to staff, colleagues, before we get started?
Just the updates from the June 16th meeting to just say that we were able to coordinate with the applicant and community members to get two meetings on the calendar, July 16th and July 24th. Making sure I say it. And from that, the applicant was able to hear from residents in the community, business owners, and folks who gathered at St. Mark Church. And then also, after the meeting, questions were submitted to the applicant for follow-up, and they came back on the 24th and answered those questions in written format, and that has been shared, I believe, with all of council, along with updates and a number of materials, and I just want to make sure that the clerk has all of them. Okay, that's all.
July 31st was also a meeting too, right?
So the July 31st, because that was a closed meeting of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, the applicant was able to provide additional comments and a chance to share updates, and I'll leave it at that. That's all.
Thank you very much. All right. At this time, we have, so we do have a lot of speakers, as we know in here. I probably have about 40 speakers, if not more. So with that being said, I still want to make sure that, yeah, I'll hear from the applicant as well. But I'll have the comments at 2 minutes. All right. How much time do you need for your presentation?
Good evening. I think given the significant public interest, we'd like 15 minutes to make sure we're addressing all of the updates that Councilwoman Freeman mentioned, as well as giving a full presentation on the request.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Williams and members of council. I'm Jamie Schwiedler with Parker Poe, here on behalf of the property owners. Sterling Bay, and Akron Group. The zoning case before you tonight is unlike any other that you've heard recently, and that's because it's for a downtown design district core that's completely consistent with all applicable policies of your comprehensive plan. The zoning is needed to increase allowable height from DDS 1 and DDS 2, consistent with your new comprehensive plan policies, which state that the entire area of downtown is just the downtown area marked in blue on your screen. This includes the DDS 1, DDS 2, DDC, and it also includes areas that are not only on the north side of 147, but many parcels that are on the south side, just like this parcel that's outlined in red. Consistent with that designation, the rezoning is to request a DDC designation for up to 300 feet. The height is the only difference in what we're allowed to do by right today and what we're asking permission from this council to be able to do. The uses remain the same. Thank you. The uses remain the same. The regulations in Chapter 16 remain mainly the same. It is simply a change in height. And because of that, it's consistent with 14 out of the 14 applicable policies in the comprehensive plan shown on your screen. And that is the zoning case. It's straightforward and it's simple. But we recognize that the Hayti community, in this case, are not. Hayti, of course, was a prosperous Black community back in the 60s before urban renewal and Highway 147 sliced through it. After that time, the Heritage Square Shopping Center was developed in 1985 as an attempt to bring back that prosperity, and it actually had local investors from the community that developed that shopping center. But the shopping center failed. And last year, the last of its tenants vacated it, and now it's boarded up and it's surrounded by fencing. It provides no jobs, no housing, no benefits for the citizens of Hayti. We were asked to continue the case from June 16th, or we asked to continue the case from June 16th to allow more conversations with the community, and Councilmember Freeman correctly noted that we held 2 of those meetings in St. Mark Church, which we're very familiar because they've been host to many of our community meetings over the past 3 years. We walked the site with Reverend Pridgeon and understood some of the concerns that they had existing on their site from a stormwater perspective. And we also met with the Hayti Heritage Center interim director and talked about ideas on how they could possibly facilitate the design charrette that we were willing to commit to in phase 1, as well as facilitate some new members that would be able to take advantage of the affordable retail that we're committing to, and identify that the affordable retail was an important aspect that the community needed. This is, of course, in addition to the 3 years of community engagement that we have conducted since this property was bought in June of 2022. The timeline for that engagement is at the top of your screen, and you can see it stretches from the left side over to the right to today. That includes over 53 stakeholder meetings conducted to date. We met with folks in their churches, we met with folks in their homes, we met with folks on the corridor itself, and we understood that it was important to get into the community and understand what their concerns were. Those 53 meetings with Hayti stakeholders are some of the representative groups that are listed below, and the key groups there are not comprehensive, but it's important to note that we tried to meet with each of them because Hayti does not have one leader. It has many, and we tried to weave together the interests and the concerns of all of them as best we could, including Hayti Reborn, St. Mark's Church, Hayti Heritage Center, North Carolina Central, the Durham Committee, and many other leaders. They do not all agree on what Hayti wants, but each benefit offered tonight and in our proposal is response to a real concern brought to us from one of these community leaders, representatives, or directly from a citizen. And we took that 3 years of public engagement and we developed these community requests that kept reverberating through some of those meetings. We developed those into planned future benefits that the community could enjoy, and we offered to record them in restrictive covenants that would be binding on the land, including a restriction of the height to 250 feet to match the North Carolina Mutual Tower, considering equity participation in future phases, and hosting community workshops to design the commemorative signage that we heard was so important, and that would be at the direction of community members. Now, some of these benefits and their value are easy to see, but some of them are not, and so I'd like to list those here. The value of the community benefits directly paid in scholarships and donations to the community would total $55,000 to NCCU, $55,000 to Durham Tech, and $55,000 to Hayti Promise, CDC. Each of those would be to the institutions to go to scholarships. We've asked for each institution to prioritize Hayti residents in their selection in their administration process. For the Hayti Promise CDC, as you know, this council invested or directed $10 million to be dispersed along the corridor by 2026. And it also had a directive that that CDC become self-sustaining or self-functioning, and ordered it to attempt to raise funds so that it could be self-sufficient going forward when those funds were expended. This is the first private donation towards that CDC's effort that will allow it to continue its work of providing projects and benefits along the corridor. In addition to that $165,000, we were offering a 5,000 square foot of affordable retail for local businesses at a 50% discount. Now, what does that mean? It means we're reserving 5,000 square feet of retail within our overall footprint, about a quarter of our retail, at half price rent. It's exactly like an affordable housing subsidy, except we're paying half the rent instead of the small business owner paying the full amount of rent. Now, in order to replace this value, that small business owner would have to rent the same amount of space across town for full rent, and we're paying that ourselves. We value that at about $80,000 per year, and we've committed to providing that in talks with the Hayti Heritage Center for 10 years. And so we look at the value of that over 10 years, that's an $800,000 investment. Right off the top, the direct benefits that would be realized would be close to $1 million. In addition to those direct benefits, we've put a value on the parking that St. Mark and Hayti Heritage Center have both requested and that we've agreed to provide. We've agreed to provide 100 spaces on Sundays for St. Mark, plus 4 events per year based on conversations with Reverend Pridgeon on site. We've agreed to provide 200 spaces for Hayti Heritage Center, plus 8 events per year based on direct conversations with the interim director of the Hayti Heritage Center. If you look at the value of that parking, if the St. Mark patrons had to park downtown in the city deck right across the street from us today and pay that hourly rate, they'd be paying $50,000 annually for that benefit that we're giving them for free. And that's in the pre-construction stage. So as the site sits vacant today in its surface parking lot, it's only $50,000. But in the post-construction, after we build our buildings and create the jobs that we're trying to bring to Hayti, we'd be giving them spaces in structured decks, which cost more money, and we'd be paid more by tenants that would otherwise be renting those. And so that value is $95,000 a year. And remember, those are annually. So those would be annualized over the course of the 10 years that we know that it's going to take to build this out. Both of those would be provided for free to both organizations, our neighbors. The free 2,500 square foot of conference space available to the community, this was asked in response to some of the community meetings, and we make it available to the community. Not only would citizens be able to reserve space free of charge, but also Durham Tech and North Carolina Central would be able to use the space for their various programs, their workforce housing, their certification programs. They like to be able to get into the community and provide a walkable, easily accessible place for folks to gain pathways to education, and we agreed to provide that space for them free of charge. It would also provide a networking area for the young students that are looking to complete their studies at North Carolina Central in their real estate school or their entrepreneurship program, and we're excited about what that could have been. The cost of rerouting the stormwater pipe away from St. Mark we've allotted for 2 issues that St. Mark has requested in addition to the parking. They had an issue with stormwater and they had concerns with blasting, and we've offered to resolve them both. We've offered to reroute the stormwater away from St. Mark site and to an invert in the Moorhead area on the DOT right-of-way. The reason that's important is because St. Mark had a sinkhole in their parking lot in about 2018. It cost them about $20,000 to repair, and we're trying to divert the water at their request from going into that pipe and off-site into the other part of the property. That would be on our property, and if DOT and the city would allow it, we would design it and install it at phase 1 and divert their water from that pipe that they have concerns about. In addition, we would offer an escrow account for St. Mark to cover potential blasting issues in the amount of $125,000. Now, I know that that's 6 times the amount that I just told you they have from their last documented issue with blasting. But we believe that that's important because it shows the good faith effort to not only hire the experts that we've committed to hiring that do the blasting as a matter of right, but they also do the pre-documentation and the post-documentation when they do the surveys for the blasting to make sure that we haven't caused any blasting issues. We don't believe that there will be any issues, but if there are, there's this pot of money of $125,000 that St. Mark can draw upon in order to pay for that. Now, these are all offers that have been made to the church. Those conversations are still ongoing, but it's important to state on the record what we've offered to do to mitigate these issues that the church has brought to our attention. In addition, we've committed to exploring historical signage. I mentioned the community charrette that we offered to conduct in our phase 1. The Hayti Heritage Center, again, has expressed interest not only in placing the affordable retail components and helping us find tenants that can fill that space, but also potentially conducting this historical signage charrette. Now, again, those conversations are ongoing, but they've been offered, and we're in good conversations. In addition to all of those financial benefits, we've offered a 1-acre outdoor public gathering space, a small format grocery, and at least 15% MWB participation goal over our full build out. Now, you can't really put a direct price on these things, but they undeniably have value to the community. Each of these things have been asked of us.
One
and made
moment, I'm
commitments.
sorry.
Sure.
Could you pause the time? Could you maybe speak closer into the mic, or if Tech, if you could turn it up a little?
I might have you push the mic a little farther away.
Okay.
I think when you're getting past it, push the base.
So push it further away from you, the base, yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better, thank you.
All right, I'll start with the historical signage that we committed to exploring in our phase 1. We studied that, and based on some renderings that were shared with us, that would be the full commemorative signage to mark the entry into Hayti, as this property is at the entry of the historic community on Fayetteville Street, and we priced that out to the tune of $270,000. And so we're committing not only to go through the process with the community and to possibly have that facilitated by the Hayti Heritage Center, but we're assuming that's going to cost us $270 million. Now, or $270,000, excuse me. And now each of these are estimates, but they're good faith estimates based on our knowledge in the construction industry and what folks have asked us to consider and what we've committed and offered to do for the community to address real concerns that we've heard on the corridor. Now, each of the things I listed, the gathering space, the small format grocery, and the MWBE are not really translated directly into dollars, but it's undeniable that they're valuable to the community because we've been asked to include them. That totals over 10 years a value of $2.3 million invested in this community that wouldn't come otherwise but for this project. Now, there's many people interested in the Hayti community, and they've tried to do many different things, but there's no other project that has pulled all of these things together, and none that have offered $2.3 million as a full package to address real concerns that we've heard on the corridor. That's a conservative estimate. It doesn't include any tax increases that the property tax would generate. It doesn't include sales tax or other things it could generate over the course of those 10 years. And the question before this council then really is whether the zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It undeniably is. The community benefits offer millions of dollars to students, residents, and business owners who are struggling, and no group has stepped up with the package of offerings that we've made here tonight. There's no combination of scholarships to these students, subsidized retail for Black entrepreneurs, or rerouting of stormwater for a church that desperately needs their aging stormwater pipe to be replaced. You'll hear from residents tonight who will say that the $2.3 million is not enough, that they want more, that they want an equity stake in the project, that denying the zoning will somehow return the choice to the people, and that a better proposal will come along. But you 7 are called to look at the reality of the situation. And the reality is that this land is owned by a group who had to borrow a large sum of money to purchase the land. And it needs an even larger sum of money to build the buildings to deliver the over 1,500 jobs that they've indicated that they'd like to bring to this community. Just because a group's portfolio is large, it doesn't mean that there's a certain amount of money that's available to give away. This concept is no different from you owning a $200,000 home. You don't have $200,000. The bank has the money. You just have a mortgage payment, and you owe it back to the bank. You have to pay the lender back. That's exactly the same situation that we're in. The community is asking the wrong question. It's not whether the $2.3 million is enough on the one hand, it's whether they'd rather have zero. And that's the situation that we're in tonight. But more than that, this application led the genuine community engagement that this council has asked us to engage in for 10 years. Whether we satisfied everyone is not the test of whether it was genuine or whether it was effective. We did the work, we attempted to resolve as many issues as we could, and we put forth a landmark amount in a community that really needs this investment. However, due to fear and some misinformation, some community members appear to think that a denial is truly in their best interest. They believe they'll get more with a denial, they believe a better plan will come back, and then another—
Wait, could you pull back maybe in front of the microphone?
So when you look down, we don't hear you.
Okay.
So if it's backed away a little bit, then we can hear everything you're saying.
Okay. They believe a better plan will come back. They believe a developer will offer more money and that they'll somehow get a better deal. But that is not the reality. The reality is, if this plan fails, Other developers will look at this and they'll take their money and they'll invest in Raleigh, they'll invest in Cary, they'll invest in RTP, where they know they can build a project and pay the lender back the money that they borrowed. And that leaves Hayti with no jobs, no housing, no millions to invest, just a vacant parcel like it sits today. We stand by what we tried to do for the Hayti community and the process that we led, and it was genuine. It's not like any you've seen before, and I stand by the integrity of that. We mourn the loss of what could have been had this community been willing to accept millions of dollars for its young students and its Black entrepreneurs and the opportunity that it could have afforded on the corridor. The reality is that denial does not help the people of Hayti, but neither does 2 hours of public discourse when it's clear that the writing is on the wall. And so for that reason, we respectfully request that the council allow us to withdraw this case, which I understand at this point in time would have to be from a motion from the council at the table. And we respectfully ask, is the council prepared to make such a motion?
Please, let's have order. Hold on one second. Do we have to approve? One moment, please, colleagues.
So, Mr. Mayor, this public hearing, as everyone knows, has been open since June 16th and was continued to this date. The governing body has the right and the authority to allow an applicant to withdraw an application for a zoning map change at any time up until approval or a vote. And that is 3.5.7B4 of the Unified Development Ordinance.
Okay. Just to be clear, you're requesting to, what,
We're
could you state
requesting
what your
to
request is again?
We're requesting to withdraw the application from the council's consideration. The case would be over.
Okay, and we have to vote on the withdrawal. Okay. Yeah. I will, could I get order in the chambers, please? Colleagues, to my understanding, hey, I'm sorry, we need to have order in the chambers. To my understanding, we still have to approve whether,
The request by the applicant is to withdraw their application, and you just need to vote it up or down. Will you allow them to do that?
Okay.
Or will you require that the case move forward to a vote on the merits?
all right, so I don't have written language for that, so I would just ask the council for their preference. Go ahead.
Attorney Rayburg, could you say the statute one more time?
It's provision 3.5.7B4 of the Unified Development Ordinance. It's not a statute, it's our UDO.
Okay, so,
It is provision 3.5.7B4 of Durham's Unified Development Ordinance. It allows an applicant to make a motion to withdraw their application, and when the public hearing is already open, that subparagraph 4 puts the matter before the council. If the motion to withdraw occurs before a public hearing has been opened, then potentially the planning director could have responded to that request, that sort of thing. But because the public hearing is open, it is now before the council.
all right, so this is not direction, this is an actual vote. We take an actual vote.
You are voting to allow them to withdraw.
Okay. Councilmember Freeman? Or Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, you were first, then Councilmember Freeman. All right, folks, we're gonna need order in the chamber, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We already have the applicant's money for the application process, And it would be unprecedented for us. I mean, we've let applicants have continuances. Sometimes we've recommended the continuance to applicants. It would be unprecedented for us to make somebody, if they want to spend their money, all this money they spend on the application process, and then withdraw. That is their right. It is. I can't remember a time. I don't think, since I've been on the council, that has happened. I would observe that, you know, the significant amount of community input we've had, that was one of the things I heard people ask for, that they would just go away and leave Hayti alone. It seems like you've gotten your victory. If they want to, excuse me, and it's their right. We're not refunding their application money or the money we've spent. So if this applicant wants to spend the money on the process and not want to go through, I see no precedent legally or logically or morally to make them continue. It's their right. And with that, I'll offer the motion when ready.
Councilmember Freeman.
I would just, I appreciate your offer. And I think what I'm most concerned about is that for 2 nights, we've had folks sitting in the audience the entire time. And just knowing that, you know, the people haven't been able to speak. And I want to say that there was a lot said in the town hall meetings, and I'd hate for council to not hear those points, because I do think, to Ms. Swindler's point, they were robust conversations and a lot of things were said. And I could try to repeat them all and not cover half of what was involved. And I do think that it's germane to this, because I don't think that anyone in the community said they didn't want to see a development. They had very specific requests about how the development should happen, how a developer coming in should be like a neighbor, making sure that the developer was in partnership with the community. Like, I don't want to miss for future conversations, because I do think this will come back at some point, whether in different format with different owners, however it came back. I do think that those points should be on the record for the council to hear.
If the case comes back, it would have another public hearing. So I mean,
Could you repeat that?
I said, if the case comes back, it would have to have another public hearing unless they did something by right. But then there is no public hearing by right. That was the risk that community said. Like, community has said very loudly and clearly. We have lots of folks here tonight. I think every single one of us attended at least one of those forums this summer, right? I only was able to go to one. But they're withdrawing their application. So there is no project. What folks would be talking about wouldn't exist, because they're withdrawing their proposal. So.
Folks, we are going to have to be able to do our job up here, so I'm going to ask that we keep order in the chamber respectfully. And I also need to hear my colleagues as well. Will you finish?
No, go ahead. Thank you. A public hearing is to hear the merits on a case. My understanding is that there is no case, because the applicant's asking to withdraw their application. So I don't know what we would be doing. We would be having a town hall on a thing that doesn't exist anymore if we follow through with what the applicant's asking. And if it does come back before us, which there have been other proposals that have either failed or withdrawn and come back to the table, there's always a subsequent public hearing.
Yeah, I'm reading the UDO, and so I think it's an important distinction that this, if it's done tonight, it might be by their request, but it would be coming from the council, so it would be a council motion. It has not formally been, at this point in time, the only way that it can be withdrawn is if the council initiates it. If the applicant wants to initiate it, they can do so in writing before the public hearing, but because the public hearing's been open for 2 months. And that's exactly, I think, what the attorney was saying, but because the public hearing has been open for 2 months and technically there is still a project, These folks have come twice already. I would agree with my colleague that I would be open to hearing the public comment. And then the motion, I think, is on the table, and we could vote on the motion after the public comment is received.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. This is still a government body, and this is still an official function. Listen, I'll name the time and place, and I'll commit to coming to any town hall and listening to everything that wants to be said. However, there is no case. This is not open mic. There has to be a public hearing in pursuit of something. And to keep fidelity with our charter and as a government agency, if the case does not exist, then there is no public hearing. A public hearing is not just hearing. Now, on Thursdays at our work sessions, folk can come and have public comments on whatever they want. But if there is no case before this council as a government body, there are things we have to keep fidelity. That's the job. And if we're having a public hearing in pursuit of no vote of anything, then what are we doing as a government body? If we're not going to vote, then, excuse me, if we're not going to vote, then there's no public hearing. But I know folk have prepared stuff and want to say stuff, and we can invite cameras if folk want, and we can come and we can hear everything, because I think there are some conversations that we need to have. I think now that we've gotten our no, when something happens there by right, are we going to bring the same energy to raise the money for St. Mark? Are we going to bring the same energy by pooling our funds and buying our land on Fayetteville Street? I've seen some post about giving Haiti away. Giving away implies ownership. We don't own it. So we get our victory tonight, but tomorrow morning, if something is built there and St. Mark is damaged, and we don't have the same energy trying to raise money for them, don't ignore the call when you see Durham City government on your phone, because you won't have to come talk to me. I'm going to come talk to you. I'm going to be looking for the same folk and the same leaders who brought all this energy here, because tomorrow, it'll still be empty. We still won't have a fund to buy land. Look, how many years did it take us to get $10 million, a measly $10 million down payment on the Fayetteville Street corridor? But we've shown up for a whole lot of other causes and helped other folk get stuff passed. When we had those majorities, that's when we should have gotten our multi-million dollars for Fayetteville Street. That's when we should have asked for our root cause initiatives then. So, brothers and sisters, we can have a conversation, but this is a government proceeding. There is no case, and therefore there is no public hearing. But we still need to talk. I yield back.
Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you. I would just repeat what Councilmember Cook said, and that there is a case. The case is still in front of us. The public hearing is still open, and it is up to the council whether we hear it or not. I think what I'm trying to stress is that this could have been a very different context and conversation if Ms. Swindler would have just said she didn't want to move forward in an email. But she stood here for 10 minutes and gave her side, and you didn't hear anything from anyone else.
Councilmember Freeman, I'd like to respond to that.
And and you could have, but
No, I'd
that's
like
not
to
the
respond to that.
Please, order.
And so just because this is the second time, the first time we continued it, this time we're withdrawing, like you're requesting a withdrawal, but in both instances, it's still really disrespectful of folks' time. I mean, it's 9:30 from 7 o'clock. At some point, she could have texted you and said she was going to withdraw. You could have not moved the cases around. Like, all of that could have happened. That's what I'm trying to emphasize, in that maybe you should just allow the people to just say what they need to say. They stayed here for 3 hours,
I'd like to explain the timing of it, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
One moment, please.
Yeah, just a couple questions for the city.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Baker. We have to be able to do our job.
And if you,
Like it or not, folks, we got to be able to do it. All right? So please, I know there's a lot of passion around this project. Trust me, I know. But allow us to do our job for you. Okay?
Couple of questions for the city attorney, and if you need a moment to think about these, obviously we were not anticipating this request. I want to ask, are there substantive differences between voting a case down versus voting in favor of an applicant who has requested a case withdrawal? For example, is there more or less time on one or the other avenue for reapplying, or are there any other substantive differences? So that's one of my questions. And then if I just want to clarify what our options are here. Option one is the request is on the table to vote, to make the motion and vote in favor of the withdrawal. If we vote in favor of that, the case is withdrawn. If we vote that down, then we proceed with the public hearing and then voting on the actual case. I just want to clarify that that is the avenue. So those are my two questions. Just want to clarify. And then also that first question, which is, are there substantive differences between a case that is withdrawn versus a case that is voted down?
As you mentioned, Councilmember Baker, I probably need some time to research this, but, you know, when a case is voted down, generally there is a period of time before an applicant can bring it back, right? So 1 year, yeah. I have to check to, I don't think if they withdraw, that waiting period applies. I don't think, but I would like to research that. I will say the way that I have received what the applicant has said tonight is akin, and I know we're not all lawyers, but Councilmember Cook is, it's akin to a litigant saying, I would like to dismiss my case. This is a motion to dismiss. And so in my mind, it would be more appropriate in the order of things for the body to vote on the motion before it proceeds any further with another part of the proceeding. There's a motion on the floor. She's making the motion. You can, of course, ignore the applicant, but as I read this provision, you know, if the applicant asks to withdraw, in good faith, the council should vote on that.
I got it. 1 second. Let me go here, then come back up here. You wanted to say something to the
I
case?
just wanted to clarify, we just got the authority to withdraw hours ago. And because the public hearing was open, the proper procedure, as to the attorney's
I'm sorry.
point.
Again, I'm going to ask for order.
The proper procedure is that we still have to appear and state that motion on, the request for the motion on the record.
Councilmember Rist?
Another question for the Madam City Attorney. So on that second question about the sort of the timeline after either a denial or withdrawal, I don't know whether the planning staff may have, is that more of a, I don't know if.
Planning staff may
Yeah.
know better than I do, whether if an application is withdrawn, if it's subject to the same waiting period before the project can be brought back.
Aaron Kane with the Planning Department. So we're looking at that right now. I've never been here where there's been a request. This is uncharted territory for many of us.
Okay.
We're looking at two things, one of which is 357D, which talks about resubmittal of withdrawn applications. It says no application that was previously withdrawn or voided may be submitted until at least 6 months have elapsed. And then if you look at 3515A, it says when a governing body has denied a zoning map change, no new application may be filed for a similar zoning map change until at least 12 months. So there's a possibility that there would be a 6-month delay versus a 12-month delay for any future resubmittal. But again, this is us looking at this in the back, and we would want to consult with legal to make sure that we're interpreting that correctly.
Councilmember Freeman?
I think just to that point, I think you could see my point in that when you stood up and gave a speech, you didn't start with, I'd like to withdraw. You started with an explanation of what happened, and you gave a whole soliloquy about a lot of things that you felt like needed to be said. That's what so the same should be applied to the other folks in the room. That's fair, that's all I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think that if we are going to do that, the applicant had 15 minutes per procedures. It's 15 minutes. We also have another zoning case that has a lot of folks here tonight that is also controversial. And so we can vote, to the attorney's point, I think we should vote it up or down. And I think that if the motion fails, because that means we're not going to let her withdraw, then I do not think we should be, per procedures, it's your prerogative whether you want to extend it past 15 minutes. But we just updated our procedures. It's 15 minutes for either side. And the Attorney Schwaler only got 10. So I don't think that if we are going to open it up to Councilmember Freeman's point, it's not going to be all 40 folks that signed up. So that is right. Because we have another, to your point, there's a lot of folks here for another case after this one.
Yeah, just, again, I came here prepared to listen to every comment tonight on this case. That's what I expected to happen. But point of order, if the opponents of this, what are they speaking in opposition to if the applicant has withdrawn their case? There's nothing to oppose. And I think the statute is clear. I think we need to go ahead and vote on, listen, we don't compel people. If they want, listen, they've spent a lot of money in this process to get to this point. If they want to leave that money on the table and withdraw, that is their right. They have the right to do that. I think this withdrawal should be read, while we may lament and be upset about not being able to speak tonight. What is the ultimate victory we were looking for? This withdrawal is a reflection of the efficacy of your organizing. They have raised a white flag. They have yielded. What are we still shooting at now? So if we want to have, that was a rhetorical question. If we want to have a town hall where we want to further talk about it, I think we should, because we need to talk about what we're going to do before we get in this position again, as people who don't own the land. So we do have some things to talk about, but right now, from a point of order, Mr. Mayor, there is nothing to, well, pending the outcome of the vote, which we need to do procedurally, there is nothing to oppose because they've taken their money, their ball, and they're going home. Point of order.
Okay. Councilmember Freeman, colleagues, I'm going to take a few last comments, and then I'm going to close this out.
I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I do appreciate Mayor Pro Tem's comment about, they're withdrawing, they're waving that white flag. But if waving the white flag today means they're back in February, that's not a white flag. That's a play that they're pulling on.
Okay.
Whether it's their right or not, I think it's important that we as a council, just in the context of how all of these, because the mayor was not present for those town hall meetings, I do think it's important that you do hear. And because Councilmember Riss wasn't at one and at the other, I think it's important that you do hear, because there was a lot more than just feelings shared. There was really vision. There was really an opportunity to think about what could happen here. And I do think that should be on the record for the city for this location.
All right, thank you. So what I will do is, colleagues, I've been asking a question. If this isn't what you want, then what do you want? I've been asking that question. I have not gotten a clear answer, but I still want that question answered. And in the last meeting, we identified some community members, and that didn't go well because there were some others that said, well, you didn't talk to me. And so before we take this vote, because we do have to take this vote, and I hope that everyone will take this proposal up. I'm going to make this proposal on the spot. I'm going to ask that we do have a planning meeting. I remember at the Walltown community, Councilmember Baker and others, you guys did a small area plan meeting with the community. You put together a plan. I'm going to ask that the same thing happens here. And I would like to commit a couple of hours to this. I will say, after looking at, everything, and no, I did not go to the specific meeting, but as I said before, I was much more engaged in this case than not. When I look at this case on paper, you would think that it's a no-brainer. If I look at the past behavior of the council and studying you all, I would think that it's a no-brainer. However, I did say this case is special, and I will listen to the folks that are actually have DNA in the soil over there. Without stating where I was initially going to vote on that, I hope that if we can put together and Ms. Anita, I'm looking at you, because you were the leader. You stated that several times in our correspondence. I hope that we can pull together an actual community planning meeting, because I'm curious what we're going to do over there, because there's $10 million that we've made the investment for, and I want to know how that's going to be supplemented. So whoever deems himself a community leader in this neighborhood, I hope that we can come together and pull together a community planning meeting, because I am so curious. If not this, then what? And I want to be able to support that. But it can't be all no and then don't respond with something. But we got to have something. I don't want to drop down to NCCU and continue to see the same thing. I want this to be one of the most vibrant neighborhoods in the city of Durham. And right now, I don't know what that looks like. So what I will do, colleagues, I'm going to call for this vote. And whatever the vote is, then that'll determine what our next steps are. But before we take this vote, I will say, I hope that we could pull all these folks together again and everybody come with their notepads and come up with some ideas. And if we can't accept that, I don't know what there is to accept. Okay? So with that being said, okay. All right, so at this time, I'll need a motion to accept the applicant's motion to withdraw. Are you making a motion? I'm only entertaining a motion right now.
Yeah, so moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, colleagues, this is a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw the case. Please vote. We will not speak from the floor. I only have 5 votes, okay. All right, Madam Clerk, please.
And the motion passes 5-2 with council members Baker and Freeman voting no.
Okay. I'm looking to the community. I'm looking to community leaders to pull this together. All right, and I'll be there. And I invite colleagues as well. All right. Staff, we can prepare for the next one.
Congratulations, by the way. How's it feel so far?
Just a few moments, please.
You showing her all the ropes? Oh, okay. Sounds good.
All right, we either need to have a seat or let's go ahead and get the doors closed so we can keep going. Let's go ahead and, if you're going to leave the room, let's clear the room. If you're going to have a seat, let's have a seat so we can get going. All right, thank you. Next case is item number 27.
Thank you. Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, honorable council members. Good evening. I'm Andy Lester with the Planning and Development Department. It's good to be.
Hold on one second. It's still a little hard to hear with the door open. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A request for a zoning map change has been received from Jesse Hardesty of McAdams for 15 parcels of land totaling 3.52 acres and located between South Austin Avenue.
Could you get a little closer on the mic, please?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's a sweet spot, right?
Yeah. Between South Austin Avenue and South Holman Street, and adjacent to East Main Street and Angier Avenue. The current zoning is industrial light, residential urban 5-2, residential urban multifamily, and commercial general. The applicant proposes to change this designation to industrial light with a textual development plan. The applicant is proposing to rezone the properties to allow civic, commercial, and some industrial uses while limiting auto-oriented uses. The properties are currently designated transit opportunity area on the place type map, and staff would like to acknowledge that at the April 8th, 2025 Planning Commission public hearing, the proposal was found to be generally consistent with the transit opportunity area place type, as the proposal prohibited many industrial uses and auto-oriented uses within the development plan. Since then, comment and discussion provided during the Planning Commission meeting has led staff to reevaluate its earlier recommendation. The proposed industrial light with a textual development plan has since been found generally inconsistent with the designated place type of transit opportunity area due to the lack of permitted residential uses, the permitted light industrial uses, and the projected lack of employment density. Should the zoning map change be approved, staff recommends the place type designation be changed to mixed employment. Thank you. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any technical questions or comments to staff? All right, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there any, the applicant? Hey there, how much time do you think you need?
I'm going to try to be brief, given the hour, 15 minutes.
All right. And put 18. Yep. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, well, I don't want to waste any time, but
Hey,
someone can come up here.
Vivian, can you do the clicky thing to put it in
Can you
presentation
get it
mode
in
again?
presentation mode? Phone a friend.
She did like 2 clicks earlier.
While we're getting started here, let me go ahead and introduce myself. Good evening, Mary Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, my name is, and members of the City Council, my name is Laura Holloman, and I'm the project planner for this case with McAdams, 2905 Meridian Parkway here in Durham, representing Durham Rescue Mission. Joining me tonight is Sarah Van Every, also with McAdams, and representatives of Durham Rescue Mission, including Pastor Rob Tart, who you'll be hearing from later, and the project attorney, Brian Crawford, with Michael Best. Through this process, we have learned that there are many folks out there, including myself, turns out, who had some gaps or misinformation about Durham Rescue Mission and just what it is all about and what it is not about. For that reason, I would like to turn it over to Pastor Rob Tart to briefly share some facts about our Durham Rescue Mission before I talk about the zoning request.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Rob Tart, CEO of the Durham Rescue Mission. On the first Monday of August 1995, I came to work at the Durham Rescue Mission. Today is essentially my 30th anniversary at the Rescue Mission.
Mr. Tart, if you will keep reference to where that microphone is. It picks up well, but it's sensitive. If you move around, you disappear.
Yeah, it's hard for me to do that, but thank you. We've come before the city tonight because I've had this idea, this dream, not just me, but us at the mission, about a career development center for a long time. But there's been a lot of discussion about this place, and I want to talk about why we need this place, why we need a career development center in Durham. The mission has made every effort we can to listen to the community. We want to be good neighbors. We've listened to the planning department. We want to build something that is commensurate with the neighborhood and in keeping with everything that's going on in the neighborhood. And if you look at the projects we've built over the past 15 years, frankly, I think we've built some very nice buildings and complemented the neighborhood. We haven't built a bunch of junk. We haven't built a bunch of bad stuff. We've just built some brick buildings, and I think they look quite well. So why does Durham need this building? And the answer is because the homeless problem is not getting any better. Here at the Durham Rescue Mission, in the past 3 years, we've had a 40% increase in those who need our services. And that's not just here in Durham. According to 2024 surveys, 771,000 people have been determined, over 771,000, been determined to be homeless in the United States, marking an increase of 18% or 118,000 people in the past year from 23 to 24. This is the largest number of homeless people ever recorded in America. The problem isn't getting any better. So what do we do with this problem, with all the homeless that is growing and becoming more of a problem? Historically, all we've done is build more beds. But it has to come to a point where we ask the question, how many beds can we build, and who are we really helping when we build all these beds? I want to suggest, instead of just building beds and giving somebody a few days stay or a month or whatever it is they need and maybe get them a job, we work on focusing and helping them work on some direction in their life, some purpose in their life, and maybe instead of just getting a job, helping them to build a career. Most of us are defined by the jobs that we do. She is a doctor, he is a mailman, some are landscapers, whatever, barber. Your job often defines what you are and do, and we find satisfaction and reward in that, and that's what our lives are often built around. But when people don't have that, and they have that lack of purpose in their life, gaining stability is a fleeting goal. I remember years ago when I first came to the rescue mission, there was a storm coming through, and in the winter when storms come through, we go into what we call Operation Warm Shelter. Today the city calls it White Flag. When we do this, we go out into the community, we go to the homeless shelters, the homeless camps, and different places where homeless would be, and we try to invite them into the rescue mission to get out of the weather. And I went to this one store one time doing this, and I thought this looks like a place where they might go and try to get in and out of the weather. I talked to the guy behind the counter, hoping that if somebody come in there just to get out of the cold and they needed a place to go, to leave some flyers with them. He looked at me and he said, "Why don't you just tell those folks to go get a job?" And if it were just that easy, just to go get a job, then our job would be easy. Because, I mean, it's much more serious and much more difficult than that. Just getting a job that is an entry-level job with no ceiling or too low of a ceiling, no opportunity, no future, that can sometimes be more detrimental to a person than doing nothing at all. However, if someone finds a path where a vocation with something they can do, something with opportunities for growth, something that will give them a future, you do more for their self-esteem when you do that than any therapy can happen. So why does Durham need this building? I want to suggest because it will allow us to approach the homeless problem in a different way, and not just get them off the street or out of the way, if you will, but to help them stand on their own, find meaning and purpose in their lives. And I honestly believe that we all want to help the homeless. I honestly believe everybody here wants to help the homeless. We're not asking for anything but permission to do this in the most efficient way. We're not asking you for money. We're not asking you for anything but just the ability to build this building in the most efficient way so that we can help the most people. I'd like to notice a few things about what is Durham Rescue Mission. First off, the Durham Rescue Mission is Durham's oldest and largest shelter, homeless shelter, around. We offer not only emergency housing, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing. We provide clothing and so many other services. We're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Last year, we served over 500,000 meals to people, over 185,000 nights of shelter, and just lots and lots of services. I won't waste your time and tell you all these different things. But I want to read a statement. This is what we're trying to do with this building, and what we're trying to do with the rescue mission in general. We believe that every person has been given a calling, and through this calling, we will help them to walk through that calling, in that calling, with confidence and dignity. With a focus on both practical skills and personal growth, we aim to empower individuals to break free from the cycles of hardship and move towards independence. That's what we're trying to do in this building. These are just some classes and trainings that we're looking at doing. I got an expanded, oops, I thought I had another. Okay. Well, this is just some of the things we're trying to do. We want to do some CDL training, culinary arts, retail management. We're also talking about do some coding, CNA training, and different other training that we want to bring in here. Jobs that don't require a college degree, many of them don't even require a high school diploma, but jobs that can be developed into actual careers for people if they're given the opportunity. Because so many of our clients, frankly, almost half of them don't even have a high school diploma. So when they're dealing with so many things fighting against them, we want to do what we can to help them. I'll turn it back to you.
So why is this needed, and why are we here? The proposed zoning, as staff said, is for 15 assemblage of parcels, 15 parcels, totaling just over 3.5 acres to industrial light. The rezoning process has not been quick or efficient, but that's okay. This is an important project, and important projects take time. We had a pre-submittal meeting with staff, of course. We had community engagement meetings. We submitted the rezoning request. That went through the neighborhood process. We had another virtual neighborhood meeting, and we went to Planning Commission. We got a lot of good feedback. And what we got was really the need to connect in person with folks, and that's why we had a voluntary community meeting at Durham Rescue Mission, and we got a lot of good feedback and a good attendance at that meeting, and now we're here tonight for the public hearing. So this is existing zoning surrounded by like-minded uses. There's a lot of industrial sites and some residential sites as well. Plus, place type designation, this is a mixed employment area. We agree with staff's recommended change. However, this seems very technical because it's ironic to me that a career development center, we get pegged being against not having strong enough employment, when that's really what we're trying to establish in the first place, is giving these folks an opportunity to build and create their careers. So what everyone wants to ask is, well, what changes have you had in response to the community meeting? Well, in addition to revising some of the colored renderings of the future community development center, which you'll see later on in this presentation, we've also limited the permitted uses even further, because we had a lot of the community feedback of, well, if you know exactly what you're wanting to do, then why haven't you limited the uses? So we took a scrub and we limited a lot of the otherwise permitted uses, not to go into everything, but it really comes down to eliminating a lot of the wireless communication facilities, the gaming operations, hotel, motel, convenience stores with gas sales, vets, kennels, office research and development, medical offices, who are typically high traffic generators, just to name a few. Let me just go back to this. As Pastor Stark mentioned, the reason we are doing this is to centralize services for Durham Rescue Mission. Right now, to provide critical resources like career training, classrooms, counselors and mentors, their retail store, those are currently spread over 5 locations and buildings across Durham. This means that critical resources are spent transporting to various locations. Bagged lunches are made for employees and attendees. This is resulting in loading and unloading and creating a disjointed carbon footprint by transporting folks to and from, including counselors, and unnecessary trash that ends up in landfills. With a new facility, like what we're envisioning being proposed, means that all these components will be housed under one facility, one with current and working HVAC services, because a lot of this stuff has been, coupled as best we can to make things work. Where folks don't have to get bused to and from and get a bag lunch, they can now walk across the street and enjoy a hot meal from the cafeteria, which is better food. This is something, in addition to feedback, we also heard additional comments. What assurances do we have on what the building will be situated on site? So we've added a condition that limits the maximum building coverage to 75,000 square feet. We also heard from staff as well, wanting to contribute to that transit, and so we've committed to constructing a concrete bus landing pad to meet Go Durham standards. That is so tremendous for a nonprofit organization like this, taking much needed services and investing it into the city. It's a huge ask. There's 2 existing structures that are located on site, and we heard a lot of discussion and questions about what would happen to them. So Durham Rescue Mission is committed to saving those and relocating them within the city of Durham. Increasing their tree coverage. Currently, what's on that assemblage of parcels is not vacant forested land. It's existing structures. It's where the previous structure that burned is. It's a lot of gravel and impervious. We're actually going to put more trees on there than what's currently there. We're specifying that these trees will be native. We're also specifying, we also heard things to do to limit the heat island. We're also establishing a natural area at the southeast quadrant of Andrew Avenue and South Holman Street to try to give assurances that that again, we're investing in the green fabric, and this isn't just going to be a paved parking lot. We're also limiting the building height to 35 feet. This is so important because, as you know, with most residential zoning districts in town, the maximum height is 35 feet. So we really wanted to establish meeting the community scale here, not increasing the allowable height about what's currently seen within the community, and not going higher than any existing single-family zoning district. So we're limiting that to 35 feet, which we believe, as you can see, is in scale with the surrounding neighborhood. This is the Career Development Center that Pastor Tart so eloquently talked about. You'll hear tonight from folks that have enjoyed and benefited from these critical services in Durham. I appreciate y'all's consideration for this zoning request. If you approve this tonight, you'll be saying yes to an attractive project that fits in with the framework of the existing community with a similar building height and native plantings. You'll be saying yes to the construction of a bus pullout pad on Durham Rescue Mission's dime on the east side of South Austin Avenue that will serve the entire neighborhood. You'll be saying yes to the Career Development Center that supports equipping local citizens for opportunities such as obtaining a CDL permit or working in industries such as culinary arts, retail management, data entries, graphic arts, and more. You'll be saying yes to fresh investment in the community, investment that leads to more people equipped to advance professionally, develop personally, and contribute positively in Durham. Quite frankly, you're saying yes to changing lives. Thank you very much for your time and attention to this case, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Just some terminology here. You said bus landing pad, and you're talking about CDLs as well. Bus landing pad is a bus stop, correct?
It's a concrete pad.
A concrete pad at a bus stop, basically?
Yeah.
Right, but CDLs, you're not building a bus training facility on property?
Correct.
All right, so it
No,
will go
no.
elsewhere to
I'm
get
sorry,
this.
I'm not understanding you.
Did you say CDL training as part of the workforce?
Yes.
Like, oh, just programmatically? Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify there's not going to be
I'm
a
sorry. I
bus
didn't
training facility on site, because you kept saying bus landing pad. It sounded confusing, because
Okay.
bus landing pad is concrete slab to have a bus stop. CDL training is part of the programming that they will provide, I guess, the classroom experience and then the practice elsewhere. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a lot of speakers. So much 27. All right, so I'm going to call up the first five speakers. Gosh, my Invisaligns. I'm going to call up the first 5 speakers. Laura Holloman. No, that's the, I'm sorry, Laura. Rob Todd is the applicant. All right, William Riles, Jason Lloyd, Darrington Cherry. Oh, yeah, that's right. Chloe Ballinger, okay. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, Pro Mayor. I came here to talk about the Durham Rescue Mission. I graduated from this program, and now my name is William Riles, and right current as of today, I work for Solid Waste Department as a driver. The Durham Rescue Mission has a sign out front that says, we offer a hand up, not a handout. And to me, and to a whole lot of ladies and gentlemen, that means to them, they put their families back together. They got their children back together and stuff like that. So they become responsible in the community. You know
Hey,
what I'm
bro,
saying?
I'm sorry. Would you
And
just
Durham
lean?
Rescue Mission also gives, Durham Rescue Mission also gives at Christmas time, Thanksgiving time, back to school donations and stuff like this right here. So the Durham Rescue Mission is a very, very exciting part of the community. And I thank you for helping me out during my struggles in my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not sure where the button is, but I'm going to take this chance and think you can figure it out. There's a button there. You may be able to sit on your side. You can lift that podium up right under. No, further down, further down. Yeah, you're the first person, you're the first resident in Durham, North Carolina to figure that out.
Thank you. My name is Darrington Cherry. I'm here for the behalf of the Durham Rescue Mission. I came to the Durham Rescue Mission in 2023. I stayed for 2 years. Just transitioned out of the Durham Rescue Mission in, what was it, July the 15th, no, August, yeah, July 15th. I currently now working at Walmart as a team lead associate. Durham Rescue Mission has saved my life, restored my life, I now got my family back. I enjoyed time with my mom. I was fighting so hard to get my mom out of the situation that she was in, and with the help of Durham Rescue Mission, and I began working at the Durham Rescue Mission. I started in the volunteer's office. I started saving money, and then I was able to get my mom out of the situation she was in. She's now living with me here in Raleigh. I just moved to Raleigh, and hey, the Durham Rescue Mission saved my life, and I am greatly appreciative of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm going to take a chance to be the second one. Y'all don't mind.
I would like to say that the Durham City Council chambers are equitable at this time. We can meet all needs, especially height.
I'm vertically challenged, so thank you.
You're vertically appropriate.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to speak here in front of the City Council. In September of 2024, I was walking back to the extended stay
Just put that mic to your
on
left.
Tower Boulevard, where I've been living for 3 weeks. I have been out all day unsuccessfully looking for work and running out of time and money. As I headed back to my room from the bus stop, I saw a sign for the Durham Rescue Mission thrift store. Now, it would be dishonest to say that I connected the store with the mission and knew what it would eventually mean to my life. I was at the lowest point. I had not had a full night's rest in months. The week I called the mission, I barely slept at all. I woke in the morning to fear and lay down at night to despair. I could not understand how, after being self-sufficient for over 30 years, I had run out of solutions. What was worse is that I had run out of hope. That all changed when I called the Durham Rescue Mission and was told, just come down and we'll find room for you. Homelessness is not just about a lost job or affordable housing, nor is it always a result of mental illness or substance abuse. In the article, Homelessness is Poverty of Relationship by Herb Reese, a person living on the street was quoted as saying, I never realized I was homeless when I lost housing, only when I lost my family and friends. Many times, homelessness is due to the absence of community during a crisis. If I met someone that wondered if the Durham Rescue Mission was for them, I would let them know that community can be found there. It's not just a meal or a place to rest, though it is that also. If you allow yourself, the mission will help you through the power of Jesus Christ to get your spiritual, educational, emotional, physical, social, and vocational needs met. And though you may come through the door hurting and in pieces, the mission will do its best to help you become whole again. In conclusion, I was encouraged when I saw on page 111 of the Durham's 5-year consolidation plan for 2025 to 2029 that the Durham's Rescue Mission's aims are complementary to those of the Continuum of Care Network. Our increased footprint will improve the lives of those outlined in Table 49, from households with adults and children at our Good Samaritan Inn or households with adults at our Center for Hope. It made me optimistic that our common goals will bring us closer to an agreement on zoning due to a shared passion for helping some of the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speakers I'll call up. The next speakers are Mimi Kessler, Ideal Ortiz, and Kim Cadell. As they are coming up, I'm going to ask for Chloe Palanchar. Do you see her online?
You're going from proponent into opponent time, and I didn't know if you're trying to track those time groups separately.
Resident. Yeah, this is an online person. I'm not sure.
I just wanted to make sure you saw the transition. Including
online. Like, what did I see? Physician, opponent. Yeah. Okay, yes, I'm transitioning. Okay. Yeah, I'm just starting with the online person, Chloe Palanchar. It's only, yeah, just one online. Do you see Chloe? Chloe, can you hear me? Ms. Kessler, I'll be right with you.
Yes, no problem. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Awesome, thank you. Good evening, council, and you did well with my name. Yes, Chloe Palanchar. I live just a few blocks down the street on Main Street from the Durham Rescue Mission. I think what I would like to say, I am opposed to the rezoning. I would like you to vote against it. When I consider rezoning requests, is this request, which is a privilege, not a right, a good use of the land for the community? Will it support Durham? Will it support the neighborhood? I do appreciate the work that the Rescue Mission does in helping homeless people. I think that's valuable. I do agree that that's an important thing that Durham needs and may need more of. However, that said, what they're proposing here, I don't think is a benefit to the community or definitely not to the neighborhood. They said they limited it to 35 feet, but what you saw, and that was actually my first time seeing a rendering of the building from Alston Avenue at all, but what you saw in that very, very short rendering that they showed us was 2 massive buildings that are going to take up most of the block. And across the street, I think they're planning a little bit of parking lot. But what they're replacing there is 15 individual parcels, all of which could create vibrancy and mixed use, diverse, activating energy at what is the entrance to our community, as opposed to what they showed, which was like kind of basically a solid wall that says maybe don't come into this neighborhood. It's not that interesting over here. As the staff noted, they're recommending a change of the type use or whatever it's called from transit-oriented to mixed employment. But if you look again at the map that was shown earlier, there's really no other mixed employment in the area. It was all transit-oriented and a little bit of residential. I think way down the street at one existing warehouse that Trosa has, there was one little block of gray. But why are we taking what was intended to be higher density, transit-oriented development and just putting these two big boxes there that'll kind of deaden out the space and deaden out one of the entrances to the community? So overall, I am opposed to this rezoning, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Mimi Kessler. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Mimi Kessler. Is this a good distance?
We can hear you, as
So
always.
what I was going to say, it sort of went out the window, because my first thought is, why was the content of these slides not in the application? Why is it a laundry list of things that they're not going to do? Now they're telling us something about what they'll do, but it's not in writing. So I would be much more comfortable if it was in the application what they intend to actually build, not what they're not going to build. As for the other case, residents are tired of the wealth inherent in land ownership going to people who live elsewhere. I object strongly that you would not let us be heard. Why shouldn't the people advocate to the last minute? And I suspect this was not new news to some of you, but a tactical political move. I don't think it will end in your favor. And I'm pretty sure it was not what is best for Hayti.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Ortiz.
Thank you. My name is Ideal Ortiz. Good evening. I've been a resident of East Durham for the last 22 years, and I've dutifully volunteered there for years for everything from block parties, organizing community safety meetings, trash cleanups, tree plantings, you name it. I'm also the owner of a Black-owned business that focuses on equitable engagement, and we like to give it to the people. So shout out to those folks that got the proclamation. I say that to give context, to know that the Rescue Mission, in my own opinion, is not a good neighbor and often does not conduct business when handling their neighbors in a good way, especially when proposing changes to East Durham, like trying to close streets, which is how I got to know Deidreana Freeman. Now they are seeking to rezone the gateway to our community, constantly posing themselves as a moat between East Durham and downtown. Many of the details they are sharing tonight are, quite frankly, new to me, despite feverishly reading through everything and attending as many meetings as I can. And I'd like to know, maybe from staff or the council, what parts of what they've shared tonight are actually legally binding. We're also not voting on the program's effectiveness, we are voting on how land is to be used. They have not submitted, in my opinion, from what I can see, any legally binding items except for what you've seen. The design isn't in that. They have insinuated that they will build at the community meeting they did at the very last moment, that they were going to, in fact, build a buy by the pound thrift store. That's what we were told at that meeting. They shared images of what they thought they might build at a last-ditch meeting. What they shared was a solid building with no windows or doors on 3 sides and one entrance that faces Anger. The side that you're seeing faces Anger, not Alston. So what people see on Alston when moving into East Durham is a block, a solid Roblox-looking block. Their application at the Planning Commission was not recommended, and no one from the community spoke in support of the mission's application. Today, they've shown you a picture with an extra mural and some trees. As our Mayor Pro Tem has said today, we shouldn't make decisions based on speculation. We have very little known and legally binding facts on which to make a good decision on this rezoning. The idea of approving this rezoning is akin to giving the Rescue Mission a blank check given how little is provided for a neighbor like the Mission who leaves properties dilapidated for decades, has buildings they own catching fire, causing damage to nearby properties, and antagonizing nearby businesses, it would be ill-advised to let folks with that kind of history have a blank check to anything. Council, I implore you to vote no.
Thank you. Last, I have Kim Cadell. Is there a Kim Cadell in the room? Oh, okay. All right, those are all of my speakers. I'll, at this time, declare the public hearing closed and back before the council. Colleagues. We don't all speak at once?
Have some questions.
Yeah.
I'll yield.
Yeah, go ahead. Councilmember Cook.
Thank you. A couple staff questions. Keep moving this, I guess. There are commitments made, but I don't maybe have a good grasp of which ones are binding and which are not. So I guess two questions. One is I would like to get an answer to Ms. Ortiz's question about whether or not any of the design part is going to be binding, which I think it's not. And then there was a comment made during the Planning Commission meeting by the applicant about there being intents and plans. I quoted that because I thought it was interesting. Intent and plans to move the residential homes to other parcels in the Durham city limits, and whether that is a commitment that's actually been made as well.
Sure. I'll address the second question first. So yes, there is a zoning standard built in to their development plan that would relocate two houses that are facing north or East Main Street. As part of the development plan, they are required to relocate them in order to satisfy that zoning condition. So that is a requirement of the plan.
Okay.
The second item is what is committed. So the illustrations that were shown are not commitments. The only commitments of the development plan are found in attachment F, which is the zoning ordinance. In that attachment, you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 commitments. And those are the specific zoning standards for this site. And so all those things would be, would govern the development of the site.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll yield.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Well, first of all, I'm going to just say I appreciate the work of the Durham Rescue Mission. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the gentlemen that shared their stories. It was quite powerful. I also want to appreciate your commitment to building a bus pad there on the near the site there. We've heard a lot from the neighbors, and I've got emails about this, about lack of clarity. I think ultimately our job is to rule on the case before us. For me, I see, and I think one of the folks on the phone mentioned this, I see an area, if I pull out the place type map, that really is all about transit opportunity areas. Oops. And so for me, to change the place type map to mixed employment, which essentially like downzoning, right? We're downzoning. I mean, I think the idea of transit opportunity area is we're developing dense corridors that are really dominated by transit. People can walk and so forth to employment, to restaurants and so forth. I think the language for transit opportunity area talks about having retail on the ground floor, housing up top. And so the fact that there's no housing here in an area that's actually ripe for redevelopment, right? There's a lot of older industrial uses in this area. To me, this is a perfect place for a transit opportunity area. So I'm not comfortable with essentially downzoning this to a mixed employment area. So I like the idea that we've got a whole area there that's got a dense network that is designed to be a transit opportunity area. And I like the plan. I like keeping fidelity to the plan. So for that reason, I'm concerned about changing the look and feel of what this neighborhood is intended to be in the plan. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem. Deidre, Freeman.
Thank you. I appreciate Councilmember Cook's question and Councilmember Riss' comment. I will say that as a resident who sits in between both the Rescue Mission and Urban Ministries, I have a very unique perspective, and this case brings forward a whole lot of emotion that I'm not going to unearth tonight. But I will say that it is incredibly disappointing to just see a big, gigantic box. I know that this is Austin Avenue corridor, and it's a great opportunity for us to actually have a actually front-facing streetscaped parcel that is conducive to actually a neighborhood kind of feel where there is a mixed use, whether that's retail or apartments, houses. Like, it really shouldn't feel like a strip that folks just speed past on 55, which I'm concerned about, as we've worked really hard to make that corridor not a speedway. And so I would love to see a plan that was a little bit more in line with the transit opportunity area. But definitely, I'm also trying to understand the career center frame when there's two universities and a community college, like within 2 miles, and then there's also a lot of city resources that are available. I just have a lot of questions, but I'm definitely not ready to support a big box on Austin Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues. And thank you for your work for over the years. I used to work in that neighborhood at a church not far from there. I've spent many a holiday serving meals there throughout the years. I want to thank you brothers who came tonight as well and shared your stories of redemption and coming back. I want to be very transparent, and I want to make sure I state this on the record. I was disturbed by a lot of the nature of the opposition to this project, because a lot of it was based upon a critique of the proselytizing that people, I believe, goes on at the Durham Rescue Mission, religious reasons. And I say that because there's everything I voted to rezone, whether it was for a school or a company, there were instances of failure and things that we could have focused on in those organizations. So I want to be very careful that I don't allow that to skew my particular vote. With that said, I do have some questions. If the applicant would come back to the podium. And again, I want to say thank you for being so transparent and sharing your story. I've heard many a story over the years of folk who have had their lives turned around. I've heard many a story of folk that have left the facility and did some unsavory things in the neighborhood as well. So I want to be transparent about that. To the applicant, so subsequent to the Planning Commission appearance, you agreed to build the bus stop. Is that correct? And that is a firm commitment.
I want to be clear about bus stop. We agreed to construct the concrete pullout, not the bus shelter. So I just want to be transparent about that.
Got you, okay. And the two concerns that the Planning Commission comments raised were the bus accommodation and a lack of transparency. That's for those who actually wrote comments, that's what I sort of gleaned. So you've made an attempt to address the transit issue with the bus pad. The presentation you gave to us tonight, why was that not used as part of your community meetings?
The changes that we made were a result of both the planning board and the community feedback received at that meeting. The result of what we heard from the community meeting were, we need more. We need to, you say that this is going to be a community development center. Well, why haven't you limited any of the otherwise permitted uses? So we went back after the community meeting, and you see in your, as staff said in your attachment, the list of prohibited uses that were added. We also heard concerns about neighborhood scale and whether this would fit, which is why we limited the building lot coverage and limited the building height. We also heard about your landscaping,
About what? I'm sorry.
about landscaping. So we added the native plantings, and we added assurances that there would be a natural area at the corner, because folks were concerned about what they were going to be looking at and if there was going to be buildings on every corner. So we wanted to assure them that there would be a natural area where there wouldn't be, masses of buildings on every corner. This is a result of the engagement working like it's supposed to. I can't go back in time and say that we, I wish that we would have had that in-person meeting sooner, but we had it when we had it, and we responded as soon as possible, and we worked with staff to get those conditions so that staff had them in time to properly vet. We went back and forth with some of the language. They agreed that everything was legally sound, and then those were made for your packets and consideration tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And there's nothing, for the sake of clarity, there's nothing exotic about the final presentation to the council being amended or evolving subsequent to a planning commission. We actually like to see that type of tension. It does not necessarily, for members of the public, if you see even substantive changes by the time it gets before us, this is where it counts, and one should not be surprised by that. That's actually sometimes a sign and symbol that the process worked, that it got better as it evolved. So I think it's important to say it does not necessarily imply subterfuge, maybe for some folk, but the proffers that are made before this body are binding. If we record them as a proffer and our folks say, yeah, we're recording that's a proffer, then that does become binding, and I want folk to be aware of that. The presentation you made tonight, so the graphic, because sometimes we put out RFPs and they'll send nice proposals back, but they're not architectural drawing. They're not necessarily.
And that's why I didn't describe the building. This is a conceptual perspective, and that was made known to the community at the meeting, and that's made known to you all tonight. And so that's why, and staff is correct and the community is correct, that we have not offered any architectural conditions, which is not uncommon for commercial buildings. What we were concerned about and what we heard resoundingly at the community meeting was the scale of a building that we, quite frankly, haven't designed from an architectural standpoint. We have some architects that were kind enough to do some pro bono work for us, and this is what you see tonight, but it's certainly hasn't been vetted by Durham Rescue Mission. This is just meant to show as a good faith effort that we've tried to respond to community meetings. And you heard tonight, this is different from what was viewed. This has required landscaping around it. We heard, well, what about glazing? You're going to have some glazing at the entrance. So yeah, we added what we expect to see. But we are by no means at a point to, design a building that, quite frankly, we heard tonight that the council isn't even sure that they're on board with. And when you're dealing with a nonprofit organization such as Durham Rescue Mission, like other organizations, what they're willing to spend at this stage is even more efficient than others. This is not a for-profit developer. So I think that they took a pause and they added, they accepted this delay, and we've really tried to add proffers that we feel like further limit and provide clarity to the community. But at this stage, this is what the process is.
So how do you respond to the concerns about it being a block, the building just being a block?
I say I understand their point, but I also say that this is a building that hasn't been fully designed, and shame on us for trying to show a look and feel of a building. But to that point, this isn't an exact replica of what the building's going to look like.
Did you want to add something? Just identify yourself, please.
Thank you. Hello?
There you go.
I'm Brian Crawford. I'm the project attorney.
You're the what?
I'm the project attorney.
Project, okay.
Brian Crawford, Michael Best, and project attorney. As far as a block, again, this is a rendering. We're not sure what it's going to look like at the end, but I want to make sure we appreciate what's happening. So with Rescue Mission right now, their operations are all over the city. And what they're trying to do is respond to a need that has been pressing for them. And that need is they have the homeless facilities and the homeless population inside their area, and they want them to be able to walk to a certain place next to the facility to lower the carbon footprint, but also to make sure that they all can work together in the central facility. So we just put up a rendering right now, what we thought would be reaction to the community, but that's not necessarily what the building's going to look like in the end. It may be in the development process that we try to make sure that it's even more amenable to what the community needs. But for now, this is just a rendering, but it's, these are homeless population, and there's a need for the rescue mission to bring them all together as a community. And so this facility fits that need. It will decommission sites all over the city and make sure that this population has a place and a center to go to that's, quite frankly, different than what the rescue mission has been doing all along.
Final question. You own those parcels already, right?
Yes.
What will you do if this is not rezoned? What will you do with it?
To the podium, please.
First thing we do is pray. But
I'm sorry, could you
I don't
start,
really-
could you speak into the mic, please?
First thing we would do is we would pray. But we would probably, by right now, we can build a 40,000 square foot building. And we just wouldn't be as efficient. We would I don't know what it would look like. I don't know. We don't have plans for that. We're not planning on not getting the rezoning. We don't have plans for not getting rezoning. But we have looked at what we can by right do now. We can put a 40,000 square foot building there by right, and we can put another 10,000 square foot separate building in the other zoned areas, because there's 3 zoned areas there.
Yeah, I'll say this in conclusion. My visceral response to this was similar to what I feel when we have, because of the nature of the work there, affordable housing projects brought before us. I mean, we got really excited about one on Dearborn, the old VFW property. That's the visceral response. But of course, there's due diligence we need to do with nuts and bolts. I want to be very careful not to burden this particular development with any unexamined filters that I do not apply to other rezonings as well. I know for a fact that despite what people may think about the Durham Rescue Mission, if you close tomorrow, Durham's unhoused population would grow up exponentially. I know that when there are white flag nights that we are not shy about using that particular, in accordance with our other institutions to meet the city's needs. So we don't have a problem then when it's an emergency and when there's a need. So that matters to me. And I will say that, it seems to me that as I read the Planning Commission's comments, the 2 marquee items, the bus stop and ambivalence, if you will, you seem to cross the threshold for me tonight in terms of we get renderings all the time. They may or may not look like the actual the actual picture of a building when it's finally analyzed. I don't know that a 40,000 square foot building by right won't look like a block either, but your representations tonight give me more comfort than, that 40,000 square foot building would still have the same kind of, it may be residential, it may be not. So there are some choices you have there, but I think the work that's been done over the years, I think the bus pad, I think the filling in of the blanks, the height restrictions that you've committed to, the responsiveness satisfy, my scrutiny with it. So I leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I yield back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple questions, couple questions for staff, actually. So the first question I have is around the UDO rewrite, and these parcels within this rezoning case are located in the transit opportunity area, and with the UDO rewrite, there's also going to be a comprehensive remapping and rezoning based upon the place type map. So were that to happen, which is, we don't know when, and we don't know exactly because we still need to have discussions about it. It still needs to be, draft still needs to be finalized. An area like this would automatically get rezoned and remapped based upon the UDO rewrite and the comprehensive remapping process. Would it still allow, under that scenario, would it still allow the use that is, based upon the existing draft, would it still allow the use that is being pursued here, but with additional kinds of standards that foster more kind of placemaking design on the street?
Sure, I can answer. So this area is intended to be the CX8 zoning district. Unfortunately, it does not allow some industrial uses, so those would not be permitted in the CX.
Get a little closer, please.
That sweet spot again. So warehouse and freight would not be allowed as part of the CX8 zoning district. And this is one of the uses that was wanted by the applicant and needed.
Was what?
Was the warehouse and freight use. That would not be allowed in other commercial zoning districts, so that's why IL was chosen, to accommodate that use.
Okay. And then could you just, what would it take, what would something like this specific application, what kinds of things would you be looking for it to remain consistent with the existing place type map? Where's this, what would you determine as the gap here?
Bo Dobrinsky, and my sweet spot is much lower. I mean, certainly some of the, I could imagine some design commitments in terms of the building itself. I will say that I know that the maximum height of 35 feet that they're committing to within the idea of keeping in context with the area is not necessarily consistent with what is imagined in the transit opportunity areas, as that's, imagines more intense development, higher densities, vertical mixed use, or mixed use in general. So, I think there's reason to think, if you're going to have a shorter building with up to 75,000 square feet of warehouse or freight, if that weren't possible, then I think it would be easier to be more consistent. And obviously, I will also just note those types of commitments or those types of proposals is really limitless, right? Like that's just up to the applicant. So
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Another question for the applicant. The height restriction that you agreed to, 35 feet, was that in response to community input? Where'd you get that number?
Yes. We heard a lot from, a lot of concerns when we shared an image similar to this one. We're concerned about.
I'm sorry, pull the microphone.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll get used to this, I promise. We heard a lot of concerns about how will this fit in with the community framework? Is this in keeping with the community character? So that was in response to the building height, because they were concerned that it looked big and massive, and we wanted to quell some of those concerns about lowering the building height, similar to
Right.
the existing and surrounding structures.
Yeah, one of the things about the comprehensive plan and future place type is that every area that we have a future place type, Matt, has an existing presence. And even the people that live there now don't always, even though they want a new comprehensive plan, they don't want their neighborhood to change, even though we may have a plan to do something different there. So it sounds as though you were being responsive to community needs, but along comes our comprehensive plan to talk about the future. I don't know how much our comprehensive plan informed your decisions, but you can choose what the community wants right now, as we often hear. We'll talk about what the comprehensive plan says the neighborhood should be, and folk will come in here and rail against it because that's not what's there right now. And sometimes we'll sing the virtues of the comprehensive plan when it's useful, and then other times we'll respond to well-organized groups that are before us that are clearly railing against something that's in the comprehensive plan, but because they're organized, there's impact. So it's an interesting, this is just a little primer, a little interesting dynamic that height restriction was in response to community input. And I think that's important to note, notwithstanding what the comprehensive plan says, which I think is important. I'm one of the people that voted for the comprehensive plan. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other colleagues? All right, I'll close this out. I think there's an opportunity here. I think my colleagues have shared mostly a lot of what I've agreed with. I think about workforce development, and I think about what you're trying to do here. I think about homeless services, and I think about what we're doing with homeless services, and I think about what you guys are doing. I think about the development as the city is growing east. And I think about how you all are a major component in that area. I think there is an opportunity here for us to work together. And, despite what we've heard tonight, I hope that, we can find a way to have I want to say germane to this case, but also within what you're offering here, I hope that we can find a way to work together, because I believe that what the city is and the county is trying to do in the work that you all are doing, it should be very well aligned. However, I feel like it's very separated. And I think that what you're trying to do can actually be larger and bigger and more impactful. And I honestly think in partnership with what you all have there resources-wise and what you're trying to do, I believe we can solve the homeless crisis in Durham, but we do have to work together. And I don't sense that enough. And I'm listening to what you're trying to do there, and I'm like, wow, we have, and this is just on the programmatic side, and I'm talking about it because you all brought it up in what you're offering. But, you're looking to rezone, you're coming to the public, you're trying to identify this public good, and and then we have what it's already intended for. So I'm not necessarily wholeheartedly against this rezoning. I just think that it can be better, and I want to be a part of helping to make it better. And I would like us to, I just want to see what that looks like, and I don't think this is it. And so I want to be your partner, and I want us to be able to, really develop this area together. Considering, what's proposed, what is there already, and yeah, I think there's an opportunity here, and I think we can do better. And that's where I'll lean with it. And I hope that we can communicate after this meeting, because I look at Denver and their rescue mission and how they work with their city, and I mean, the solutions are there, the relationships are there, and I think that we need to make sure we do that as well. So I'm going to say no in what's proposed, but I will commit to working with you all as an organization, and I hope that you'll be amenable to working with us as well. So with that being said, there are no more comments. I'm going to go ahead and call us to the vote. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the Unified Development Ordinance by taking property out of industrial light, residential urban 5-2, residential urban multifamily, commercial general, and establishing the same as industrial light with a textual development plan. It's been moved. It's been moved and properly seconded. Please execute your vote. All right, Madam Clerk, please read out.
And the motion fails with Mayor Pro Tem voting yes, 6-1.
All right, thank you. That means I just go to the consistency statement, right? All right, so considering the failure of that, I'll just read what is that, 20?
You're on 27.
27.
Yeah.
All right. All right, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt a consistency statement as required by North Carolina General Statute, Section 160D-605.
No, Mr. Mayor, you don't need to do the consistency statement since the vote for the zoning failed. There's no need to do that.
Okay, my apologies. My apologies.
No, you still need to do it. I'm sorry.
Well,
So,
here.
so when you all are doing a consolidated annexation item and the annexation fails, you do not have to adopt that last motion for a consistency statement, but anytime you're voting on zoning, whether you approve the rezoning or deny it, you have to adopt the consistency statement saying that you've acted consistently with, does that make sense? Okay.
All right, so we've executed the motion on the first motion, the second motion to adopt a consistency statement as required by North Carolina General Statute, Section 160D-605. It's been moved and properly seconded. Please execute your vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, I do need to go back to number 3 to entertain a motion.
Okay.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cook and seconded by Councilmember Baker to, to appoint residents to fill 4 vacancies on the Recreation Advisory Commission with 1 representing person with disability, with the terms to expire on August 8th, 2028. Please execute your vote. All right. Madam Clerk, please read out.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Colleagues, oh, you need to settle the agenda. We got it. All right, thank you all so much. We are adjourned at 10:59. Thank you all.